Big Brother, mainstream media, government cover-ups. You want answers? Well, so does he. He's Alex Jones on the GCN Radio Network. And now, live from Austin, Texas, Alex Jones.
I've probably started 500 radio broadcasts the way I'm about to start this one, trying to contain myself, trying to make sure I go over coldly all the incredible evidence. This is truly a day where we're seeing the best of humanity and the worst of humanity. Only 9% of Americans in a major poll are agreeing to an attack on Syria. This is unprecedented. This shows the dam has broken. The people are aware of the fraud. They're aware of the war provocation. Every military person I talk to, active duty and retired, all the way up to generals, some of them off record, some of them on record, are absolutely against this and know that the Syrian rebels, the al-Qaeda forces, are behind the attacks. They've been caught 3 separate times. There's no logic for Assad to do this. The area where it happened was rebel-held, and they targeted civilians. And then you watch John Kerry up there pushing his lies. This is unbelievable. But what it illustrates is we have a political class dictatorship, a bureaucratic, corporate, mega-globalist dictatorship that doesn't care. And they're now in NBC News, Associated Press, Reuters, you name it, announcing the military strikes as early as Thursday. That's military strikes, heavy strikes. Aircraft are massing in Cyprus 100 miles away. F-16s, F-18s, F-15s, Puff the Magic Dragon, C-130 gunships, just you name it. They've even had B-2 bombers taking off out of the U.S. and reportedly flying to Europe. That's why one of them crash landed a few weeks ago. There is just all sorts of stuff going on right now. They're not just gearing up to hit Syria. They're not just gearing up to hit Syria, folks. They intend to get in a fight with the Russians. And the Russians have got anti-aircraft missiles that are the latest generation. They've got anti-ship missiles that are the latest generation. And let me tell you, when you see U.S. ships sinking and on fire, and when you see U.S. aircraft getting shot down, the average good old boy is going to get behind Obama, kneel to him, and turn his guns in, basically. I mean, they know that because they'll just get behind the military whenever they see U.S. ships blowing up. They may even false flag our ships. That got declassified. Well, Cy Hirsch had sources inside. Later, they had to admit it, 4 years ago, that Cheney wanted to attack U.S. ships in the Strait of Hormuz and blame Iran. But Bush said no and stopped him. One of the few times he said, I'm the president, you're not going to do that. Because Bush reportedly had some little soft spot for the Navy SEALs they were going to kill. I mean, that all came out, ladies and gentlemen. That all came out. And it is in the BBC that Western aircraft are arriving in Cyprus. Zero Hedge is also carrying it. It's all up on Infowars.com and PrisonPlanet.com. And the leader of al-Qaeda, Zawahiri, this is CNS News, has gone public backing the U.S. attack. He's very, very thankful for that. And saying after they've already taken out Libya, he says after Syria, then Damascus, the capital of Syria, then Cairo, then Jerusalem. Absolutely. And Obama and our government is on record supporting that takeover. Now, here's the mega bombshell. And this story is up on Infowars.com right now with all the videos added to it. It's from WorldNet Daily. And we've got Dr. Corsi joining us at the start of the second hour. Paul found this a year ago when they first attacked them, loading the missiles with the nerve gas. And because the al-Qaeda rebels post it, they're proud of themselves. They know how dumb Americans are on average. There are new videos of last week's attack with the jihadis loading the chemical mortars. And I told you it'd be chemical mortars because that's how you precisely hit a civilian area. And then blame the opposition. We have the video. They posted it. That's how arrogant they are of them launching the chemical attack. And you know who's commanding them, John Kerry. So when he gets up and gives a speech about invading, he's the prime suspect of the nerve gas attack.
Resistance to tyrants is obedience to God. It's Alex Jones.
My friends, it looks like they're going to do it. They're really going to do it. And it conjures up an image of Charlton Heston at the end of the Planet of the Apes, discovering that the planet he's on is not some far off planetoid orbiting a distant sun, but is Earth. When he sees the Statue of Liberty half submerged in the ocean, melted from nuclear fire, thermonuclear explosion. He says, they did it. They really did it. And that's the point we stand at here. I don't say this for rhetoric or to hype up the radio listeners. I am more concerned for my family and this country and the world than I have ever been. You know the globalists aren't going to let Obama just leave office in 2.5 years. They haven't set up Homeland Security, the armored vehicles, the billions of bullets, and the spy grids, and gone public bad-mouthing the Founding Fathers in the Department of Defense manuals that are public, the Judicial Watch is covering. They haven't tried to overthrow the country and shut down our power plants and ship our jobs to China for nothing. They're going for broke. And they need a big war to get the American people to shut up and go along with it. There is a Russian fleet off the coast of Syria. The Guardian confirms what Zero Hedge is reporting. You can look at the links on Infowars.com and DrudgeReport.com right now, that U.S. aircraft, British aircraft, French aircraft, NATO forces, F-16s, F-18s, you name it, German aircraft, they're all massing there. Tornadoes, the list goes on and on. And they are moving in strategic bombers. I know because they've left West Texas. They're gearing up for war with Russia, ladies and gentlemen. They're just going to use Syria as the detonator for this situation. There's the London Guardian. Syrian crisis. Warplanes spotted in Cyprus as tensions rise in Damascus. NBC News reports military strikes on Syria as early as Thursday. U.S. officials say it is on, ladies and gentlemen, right now. The Russian deputy premier calls the West a monkey with a hand grenade. And that's an old saying from World War I, because a monkey has no idea that it's holding absolute death in its hand. World War III, ladies and gentlemen. You know, I liken it to a 5-year-old who is playing Monopoly with you and you catch them cheating. And except in this case, innocents die and Park Place gets bombed, basically. And it is psychopathic, inbred globalist royalty and bankers who make 40-to-1 bets with other people's money and get in trouble only by being slapped on the wrist and given more taxpayer money. And they're accustomed to never failing, and they've got over 10,000 nuclear weapons in the U.S., more than 20,000 in Europe and England. Israel's got more than 600 and has got Dolphin submarines with cruise missiles aimed at Russia, saying they'll use them. The Israeli Knesset, even this year, had members say, let Russia back Syria. We'll just blow them off the map. I mean, this is crazy land, ladies and gentlemen. This is a monkey with a thermonuclear stockpile. This is worse than a monkey with a hand grenade, because then the monkey just blows themselves up. And it's just like Hitler turning east into Russia when he was already losing with the West. It's just like Napoleon going into Russia. Empires go into Russia to die, ladies and gentlemen. And the Russians have shown historically that they will not blink when it comes time. They're going to fire nuclear weapons. Now, they already tried to have nuclear war in 1962 and 63. Kennedy said no, and the CIA blew his head off. I don't romanticize Kennedy. He did a lot of bad stuff. They were getting ready to stage a false flag on Honduras. That's been declassified, to blow up the U.S. Embassy to have a war down there. But Kennedy, this came out. Curtis LeMay, the head of the Air Force, wanted to nuke Russia. If you see the movie Dr. Strangelove from 1964, that was made during that whole deal. And Kubrick, it's now been declassified, was given info by the Kennedy administration in 62 and 63 when they didn't think they'd be dead yet, as a way to counter them. And, of course, Kennedy then fired them all. L.L. Lemnitzer, Curtis LeMay, the Dulles brothers running the CIA. He said, we're not going to have nuclear war. And he called Khrushchev up and said, look, bud, you back off right now. They're going to nuke you. And because he got that real phone call, the Russians stood down, pulled their missiles out of Cuba, and the U.S. pulled their missiles out of Turkey. The Russians put the missiles in Cuba because the U.S. put missiles in Turkey. Believe me, I know. I had family over there that was deploying them. I remember hearing about that when I was a kid, after it had happened. But back when I was a kid, it was just a few years after it had happened. Okay, this time you got a bunch of nutcases running the federal government, ladies and gentlemen. There isn't a John F. Kennedy up there to stop this. And yes, the West has superior space weapons, DU, meteor guns, sabos, all sorts of stuff. It still won't matter. They won't be able to shoot down all the Russian missiles. Now, Dick Cheney on 888 back in 2008 had their Western puppet launch an attack into Russian-held areas, attack Russian bases on the border in Ossetia, South Ossetia, and Abkhazia. And our media said Russia has attacked Georgia. It came out 3 days later that no, actually the West attacked Russia. People said, how dare you side with Russia? Folks, I am an American, a constitutionalist, a defender of the whole Bill of Rights. We've been seized by crazy bankers that aren't even in the U.S. mainly. They've all moved to Luxembourg. And by the way, all the top Israeli billionaires, all of them the last 2 years, have moved out of Israel. Guys, type in those headlines. All the dots are connecting right now, even for me on air as we break this down. Just type in billionaires leaving Israel. And they're going to Australia, folks. They're going to London. They're going to Paraguay. The Israeli billionaires are leaving. The American billionaires are leaving. I personally know one of the richest women in America. She's no longer in America. I only ran into her by happenstance as she was a listener. I didn't even know who she was. I looked her up and she told the truth. One of the richest defense contractor women in the world. She left 5 years ago. She said, quote, there will not be a United States. I said, what are you talking about? She said, look, you're going to get real big because everything you're saying is true, but you better get your family out of here within 5 years. It's 5 years later. I've told you that story for 5 years. Put the headline back up there for everybody. These crazy people are going to start World War III. Guys found the headlines. I want to read it to people out of London Guardian about the Israeli billionaires leaving because they know Israel's probably going to get hit in all this. Israeli billionaire Adon offers moving to London. No loss to us. Bye-bye, Adon. Your move won't impact Israel's economy. Blah, blah, blah. I mean, that's just some, I guess, Israeli paper. What is that, Haaretz or Jerusalem Post? Yes, Haaretz. They've all been leaving, ladies and gentlemen. Okay? Because let me tell you something. The globalists want to bring in world government. And they have declassified that they staged World War I and suckered the Austrian-Hungarian Empire into that war, Germany into that war, to bring in the League of Nations. And then they engineered World War II, the globalists funding all sides, to bring in the UN. And now the final world war that Albert Pike wrote about in 1878, the head of the Illuminati, look it up, his letter in the Royal College in London, Royal Naval College, I've been there. Ladies and gentlemen, he said they'd have a final world war to bring in the Antichrist. Now, whether you believe in God or not, these people do, and they're doing it. And they believe out of this giant war that they're trying to set up, they pray to bring in the Antichrist. Now, I'm just telling you what the globalists think. They call him their Christ. I call it the Antichrist. By the way, this is so bombshell, I can't even believe it. Up on Infowars.com, we're linked to the WorldNet Daily article with all the videos. And I remember Watson a year ago with nerve gas attacks showing the rebels bragging they'd done it. WorldNet Daily found all the Al-Qaeda videos from all of their Egyptian and Israeli sources because there are a bunch of cooler heads in Egypt and Israel that don't want this to happen. By the way, most people in Israel aren't for this either. And large parts of the Knesset aren't as well. It doesn't matter, though. Large parts are for it. And so through their contacts and Arab speakers they have that work at WorldNet Daily, what an incredible team they have, folks. I've been to their offices in D.C. That's amazing. They were able to go find all the videos put out last week where the rebels, in fact, show the article and scroll down. In one of the videos, it's a still shot of them loading and it's the Al-Qaeda rebels. Remember last year, or earlier this year, and the Israelis bombed it so they wouldn't get it? Al-Qaeda got into that chemical base and reportedly stole some. There is Al-Qaeda in their own videos, in their own brigade websites, loading the chemical mortars onto the mortars and firing them and bragging they did it. I mean, this is unbelievable. And then John Kerry gets up there yesterday and says anybody that questions this is aiding the terrorist. And we don't even know, he goes on to say, who did the chemical. It doesn't matter. That's a quote. And even the Wall Street Journal today says that, has the quote going, well, does it matter who did it? If the UN finds chemical residue, they bomb the whole country and go in and turn it over to Al-Qaeda. I mean, they don't even care that we all know. Because once they start a giant war, they think you'll get behind it. But let me tell the globalists something right now. I have Pew Research here with a 10-year graph from the 2003 start of the Iraq War until now. Document cam, please. The war started with a 72% approval rating. And the last time they did a poll, it had a 38% approval rating, ladies and gentlemen. Okay? And this Pew Research went from 2003 to 2008. Doesn't go past that. So within those 5-6 year period, it plunged more than half. Okay. There's that. Now, let me show you the new poll, Syria intervention, even less popular than Congress. A Reuters poll, scientific, only 9% support it. And there's another Real Clear Politics poll. Ladies and gentlemen, here's the deal, globalist. Everybody knows you're running the chemical attacks. By the way, you know why I got so sick and so angry? I actually had a fit yesterday up here. I mean, I was yelling and running, screaming for about a minute and a half because I realized why I was getting so angry. When I'm looking at John Kerry talking about these dead kids, the State Department's the one running this. He ordered the chemical attack. Ladies and gentlemen, Alex Jones here. And I want to do what we did yesterday. I want to give the number out again for active duty military. Especially if you've been over in Iraq. They're on record arming the Al-Qaeda rebels to send them in by the hundreds of thousands in the last 2.5 years. Or if you've been at the bases in Jordan, where 2 months ago the U.S. military had a drill and wouldn't leave Jordan. And the Jordanian government said, leave. And our troops just sit there. U.S. troops have entered into the Gaza area. I mean, all of this is being pre-deployed. And then the West says a year ago, if there's any chemical attacks, period, that's a red line we're going to attack. Thinking Americans are simple-minded. And then on the date that Obama said that, that's how these gangsters operate. They have Al-Qaeda. WorldNet Daily, folks, Dr. Jerome Corsi, who worked in all sorts of black ops. Harvard political science guy, State Department. I mean, you know, give me a break. I mean, he's a major, major, major spook. And he's saying that the rebels launched the chemical attack and they have the videos and their Arab sources. Of course they did. They did the last 3 events, ladies and gentlemen. And the fact that you got somebody like Corsi, who's a heavy hitter, with all the big connections, worked at international banking, you name it, coming out and saying exactly what we're saying and what Russia's saying, it's because it's the truth, ladies and gentlemen. And they're going to put Assad up there and go, look, he has a mustache. He has brown skin a little bit. You know, he has brown hair. You know, he's bad. He's a bad man. We better get him. He hurt the children. While Assad's going, I didn't do this. Don't attack us. The Russians are going to defend. I would never use nerve gas. You know that. You know, you guys have an evil government. Americans, please don't let your government do this. They've been attacking us for 2.5 years. Al-Qaeda is murdering us. They're blowing up our churches. Please, Americans, please. And the good news is the American people, in a major Reuters poll, and then there's 2 others, are between 9 and 12% supporting this. Ladies and gentlemen, they had 72% in the major polls, some of them even higher, at the start of the last big staged war. Bill Clinton had over 70% support as well, bombing Belgrade, blowing up the Serb infrastructure. Turned out that was all made up as well. That was the Western Civil War where they funded jihadis out of Albania, Al-Qaeda again to attack. The Serbs defended themselves, of course, did some atrocities. Both sides were doing it. And then the West went in and absolutely blew the daylights out of them. The point is the West, the bankers come, they inject people into your country, stir stuff up. They sent in the Croats from one side, They sent in the Muslims from the other against the Serbs. The Serbs defended themselves, defeated it. Even the UN's own commission, you can look this up, said there were twice as many people killed in atrocities and war crimes against citizens by the Croats and the Muslims, double-teaming the Serbs, than were killed by the Muslims and the Croats. And I've had a few Croat and Muslim taxi drivers in New York and once in Austin and once in Dallas. This happened 3 times. Say, you are Alex Jones. We love Bill Clinton. You side with Serbs. I don't like you. I'm like, well, you want me to get out? No, but you do not know. And I go, well, didn't you guys attack them first and kill double their number? Yes, they are evil. We will kill all Serbs. Why are you with the pig Serbs? And I'm like, I'm not. I don't even have any Slavic blood in me, but I'd be proud if I did. I'd be proud if I had, your blood in me. I just, the point is, the West started all this to get rid of a sovereign area. Well, okay, but to us, Bill Clinton is God. That was a conversation in New York. Back in 2004, I was there for the RNC. And this guy, I was in the back. Kevin Booth was right next to me, and this guy was just looking at me in the rearview mirror. And he looked like a pure white guy. He had like blonde hair, blue eyes, but he was a Muslim. And he was just like, I used to like you, but you do support the pig Serb. I mean, it's just like, man, I don't support NATO and the New World Order sending people into some country to attack them. They defend themselves, and then they're called terrorists. And then the West blows up all their chemical plants, all their power plants, bombs Belgrade with depleted uranium. I was against doing that to the Iraqis. I'd be against doing that to Eskimos. I'd be against doing it to Africans. Man, I got empathy. I don't believe in war crimes. I don't believe in being the bad guys. I don't believe in it being done in my name. And they did this to the Serbs, and they've done this to so many other people, and now they're going to do it, and they've been doing it for 2.5 years, and they're going to bomb that country from one end to the other and kill Russian troops. They're evacuating all Russian civilians right now. There are Russian troops piling off ships right now to go into the country as all the men, women, and children and diplomats leave. And the Russians undoubtedly have brought nuclear weapons into Syria. You can bet your bottom dollar those missile cruisers they've got right off the coast have got nukes on them. Medium-range cruise missiles. Basically Russian versions of Tritons. I mean, this is not a game, ladies and gentlemen. This is not a joke. But here's what's happening, so-called elite. You're all butt naked. Everybody's seeing this. You got 9% of people supporting you, okay? Everybody sees who you are.
Resistance to tyrants is obedience to God. It's Alex Jones.
You can run on for a long time. Run on for a long time. Run on for a long time. Sooner or later, gotta cut you down. Sooner or later, gotta.
There is a proxy war going on between the bankers, the globalists, the New World Order faction that runs much of Western Europe, England, Canada, the United States, Australia, New Zealand. They are gearing up for a proxy war, an open war, beyond proxy, with Russia. And WorldNet Daily has translated a whole slew of videos shot last week of the Al-Qaeda, Qatari, Saudi Arabians, Al-Qaeda forces, with Al-Qaeda flags, by the way, singing Osama bin Laden. I mean, it is disgusting. Firing chemical weapons. You know they videotape everything they attack. And they know you're so dumb. And the globalists have got this so badly coordinated that they are firing chemical weapons on video in a whole slew of videos uploaded last week. And they're bragging it's theirs on their YouTube channels. They're even allowed to have YouTube channels. Imagine if I had a YouTube channel launching chemical attacks. I mean, there'd be 50 black helicopters, highways shut down, Alex Jones, the ultimate evil. Our media is so controlled. There's all these videos of the Western forces. And that's why Kerry came out yesterday and said, it doesn't matter who it turns out launched this. We can't allow this to be used. It's Assad's fault this is happening. And the Wall Street Journal quotes him as well today, saying it doesn't matter who did it. It's Assad's fault, and we must take over the country now. We must lock these weapons down. Remember earlier this year when Israel bombed reported chemical weapon storehouses in Syria, which all major governments have? They said it was because the rebels had gotten in and they didn't want them to have it. Was that an Israeli cover story because they knew they were really getting them in there to get them? I don't know. The point is, it's rebels with what looks like Russian chemical weapons saying Allah Akbar, death to Assad, firing them. Video after video of them shelling neighborhoods so they could then blame it on Assad. And our stinking, wicked media, CNN, MSNBC, Fox, neocon talk show hosts, you know who's out there promoting that we've got to go in against Assad now. The same neocons that promoted the banker bailout, but then later said it was bad. I am so tired of it, folks. And I'm not trying to differentiate myself with other talk show hosts. I'm not going to say their names. I just wish they weren't evil. Because they're not stupid. Thank God WorldNet Daily is telling the truth, because they've got a bunch of Arab speakers and former PLO people that work for them who have translated all this. And you can go and translate it on the Google Translator out of Arabic into English as well with the text. Enter into a text translator, and it does say that. They're celebrating firing the chemical attack last week from multiple video angles, them launching it. They also then videotape it exploding. Then they go in and film with gas masks of people dying. It was their little Steven Spielberg production. Basically, it's a bunch of sicko jihadis doing this and detonating chemical weapons, and it is absolutely, thoroughly disgusting. You can see them blowing up cars, buses, trains, firing mortars. How many videos? There are like 8 videos on the page. I mean, there's 4 posts and a bunch of links in the article to others. This is unbelievable. And then Paul Watson, earlier this year, found video of them doing the same thing and bragging. Look, we have chemical weapons. And by the way, some of these guys have been on BBC and CNN. They're rebel leaders. It's not like they're Assad forces posing as Syrian rebels to do a reverse false flag. They don't even care, because the establishment goes, look, the American people will buy anything. They might as well have John Kerry go over there and load the mortars. We already had John McCain and others. Show McCain visits the rebels, photos and video, including meeting with the guy. There's video of McCain meeting with the guy who 2 months later has a heart of a guy he just killed and is eating it on TV. And if you're a new listener, by the way, write everything down I'm saying and look it up. I can't even believe this, okay? I mean, this is so beyond anything I can imagine. Al-Qaeda hanging out with John McCain and then chewing on hearts 2 months later and firing chemical weapons. And then Kerry, I watched the video before I did the nightly news last night. And I watched it, and I watched the 7-minute press conference. The White House has got another one coming up today. And I got so enraged, I couldn't, I mean, I had to actually, and I don't ever do this, folks, I had to actually go in my office and start yelling just so I wouldn't break something. And I psychoanalyzed why I got so upset. It's because I realized this could be World War III. We've got a bunch of madmen in control, and we haven't done enough to stop them. These globalists are madmen. They're going to cause World War III because out of the crisis they can get control. But I finally realized what made me sick. It was that ugly Botox head, that giant, deformed, looks like alien head of that piece of garbage, anti-American, anti-gun, anti-family, banker bailout, derivatives pushing, scam artist, scumbag, black widow, male black widow, on record, John Kerry. These people are like cancers. They just never get out of our lives, saying, I want you to go watch those videos because they're painful. And he has this sick look in his eye, and he knows that other people aren't psychopaths like him, and he can use the pain of those kids to sell a much more giant war. And then it clicked while I was so upset. I know the State Department, when the Pentagon doesn't like something, because the Pentagon's been bucking this, and they've been not getting congressional approval, they've been doing it with other governments in NATO, that it's the State Department that's running this. And then it all clicked. I'm upset because that's the guy that gave the order for the chemical attack. How absurdist is that and sick? On TV, using the dead kids to launch an even bigger war. That's why I became physically ill. I want to talk to current serving military personnel. What do you think about this evil? 800-259-9231. 800-259-9231. I want to get your take on what I just said. Is anything I've said not true? I mean, plus, you don't just believe me if you're a regular listener. Just everything I said, I just gave you the headlines. Washington Post, new poll, Syria intervention, even less popular than Congress. 9% approval rating, scientific poll. Boom, there's that article. Israeli gas mask distribution ramps up amid Syrian escalation. Suspected chemical weapons use. Evidence, Syria gas attack, work of U.S. allies. Dr. Jerome R. Corsi? I mean, that is so bold. He's basically saying what we're saying. It was basically run by the globalist. Run by Kerry. Unbelievable. With the video to prove it. Zawahiri, the #1 head of al-Qaeda worldwide, says the Syrian rebels, Damascus first, then Cairo, then Jerusalem, and salutes America. The head of al-Qaeda salutes America. I have entered the twilight zone, ladies and gentlemen. And they know once the war starts and we're in a fight with the Russians, the average American will turn their guns in. They'll do whatever Obama says. Unbelievable. Inspectors in Syria forbidden from finding out who used chemical weapons only if they were used. Wall Street Journal. Yeah. Yeah, now they've said, that's what Kerry said. Doesn't matter who did this because he knows he gave the order. He's over the operation. That skull and bones brother, that devil incarnate. I mean, this is more than I can't even believe this. They're not even hiding any of it now. I guess they've decided in the information age, they just will do whatever they want. Here it is. Military strikes on Syria as early as Thursday. U.S. officials say. NBC. Syria crisis. Russia and China step up warning over strike. Meanwhile, the globalists have already moved all their assets to China. They're setting America up for a fall here. This is the ultimate double cross. Western warplanes begin arriving in Cyprus. Zero hedge. It's also in London Guardian. But meanwhile, that doesn't matter. Miley Cyrus was humping on somebody on TV. That's more important, people are saying in the polls. Syria strike due in days. West tells opposition sources. Reuters. On and on. U.S. to release report in coming days justifying Syrian strike. President set to have a White House briefing today, pushing it. I mean, ladies and gentlemen, and by the way, once they start a war with Syria, they can set up false flags and blame it on them. And Iran... And everybody will say, well, Iran, we better get behind the president. This is how an imploding president with all these scandals, the Fast and Furious, the Benghazi, the NSA gate, all of it. This is how this corrupt foreign coup, this banker coup will keep control of America. 800-259-9231. We're going to go to the active duty military that's calling in. But first, I want to go to a few clips here to remind you of what's happened before. Here is the Kuwaiti daughter of the ambassador who hadn't been to Kuwait since she was a baby. Here she is as a teenager. They wouldn't even say what her name was. Putting out the lie of the incubators that never happened. Then we'll show you how the media then spun the babies. And then Wesley Clark, the former head of NATO general, admitting it was all a fraud. Let's go to the first clip.
Our final witness is also using an assumed name, and again we ask our friends in the media to respect the need for her to protect
these people
her
are
family.
So criminal.
And we finally call on
so criminal
to testify.
So criminal.
I volunteered at the Al-Adan hospital with 12 other women who wanted to help as well. I was the youngest volunteer. The other women were from 20 to 30 years old. While I was there, I saw the Iraqi soldiers come into the hospital with guns. They took the babies out of the incubators. Took the incubators and left the children to die on the cold floor.
All right, that's enough. And then in the next clip, they go through all the lies and say they were bayoneting the pregnant women. Same thing Robert Rodriguez did with his Machete movie, where it shows the cowboys shooting pregnant Hispanics. I mean, it's war propaganda, folks. This is what propagandists do. They wave the bloody shirt, and they're doing it like you're an idiot. The good news is, here's my message to the globalist. You have a 9% approval rating in a major scientific poll. 9% of people agree with you. This shows you are a different group than America. This shows we have a rogue criminal government. The Pentagon, by the way, doesn't want to attack Syria and hasn't been liking what's going on, and morale's at all-time lows. So they're running through the State Department. Remember, when you see John Kerry up there, folks, that's who probably gave the order to release the nerve gas on the one-year anniversary of Obama, saying that's the red line. How sick is that? You don't get... That'd be like Jeffrey Dahmer having a press conference about kids missing in the neighborhood while he's got a barrel right next to him with a 5-year-old in it. I mean, this is just over the top, man. Reality is so insane. Now, let's go to them hyping this up. Then we'll go to Max and Steve and others, active duty. Let's go to the clip then after she gave the testimony of why we had to attack Iraq in 2003, but before this in 1990.
They took the babies out of the incubators. Took the incubators and left the children to die on the cold floor.
And Carrie's like, they nerve gas the children.
How these animals can commit such barbaric and inhuman acts.
This woman's almost laughing.
Deny that these acts ever took place.
Look at that line.
Premature infants in incubators were sentenced to die by having the incubators removed.
The hardest thing was burying the babies. I myself buried 14 newborn babies that had been taken from their incubators.
Now is the time to check the aggression of this ruthless dictator whose troops have bayoneted pregnant women and have ripped babies from their incubators in Kuwait.
I could not help but think of my nephew, who, if born premature, might have died that day as well.
They had kids in incubators, and they were thrown out of the incubators so that Kuwait could be systematically dismantled.
All right, folks, turned out that was a complete lie, and over 5 million Iraqis died, over 1 million of them from military connected events. That's the British Medical Journal. 500,000 children by 1997 had already starved to death or died. That is Madeleine Albright admitting that, saying it was, quote, a good price to pay. By the way, can you find her saying that for folks that don't believe me? Just search YouTube. Madeleine Albright, 500,000 dead Iraqi children. It'll come up for you. It's a good price to pay. By the way, the Esquire magazine didn't believe me when I told them that, and then they went and found it. We're like, oh, my gosh. It's like, oh, 500,000 kids. Yeah, it's like a pothole, no big deal. You know, it's like, you know, getting your windshield cracked. It's no big deal. Oh, but the children in Syria, they got nerve gas. Now, in the case of the incubators, it didn't happen. In the case of the nerve gas kids, oh, it happened. And they're like, Allah, 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 Allah Akbar, Osama bin Laden. Oh, we love you so much. Allah, Allah. And then shooting the missiles off on their official YouTube channels. And singing, we love Obama. There's videos of this. We're putting them together for the Obama deception. Just dancing around. Obama, we love you. I mean, you cannot make up stuff this weird. Now I'm going to go to some phone calls, and then we're going to get into the other video clips of war propaganda. In fact, let's get to one more before I go to the calls. Here is Wesley Clark on the 7-nation hit list, where they bring him in and go, yeah, here's the countries we're going to hit, and we're going to make stuff up to do it. Here's that clip.
I went through the Pentagon 10 days after 9/11, and an officer from the Joint Staff called me into his office and said, I want you to know, he said, sir, we're going to attack Iraq. And I said, why? He said, we don't know. And then I came back to the Pentagon about 6 weeks later. I saw the same officer. I said, why haven't we attacked Iraq? We still going to attack Iraq? He said, oh, sir. He says, it's worse than that. He said, I just got this memo from the Secretary of Defense's office. It says we're going to attack and destroy the governments in 7 countries.
This was before 9/11, by the way.
We're going to start with Iraq, and then we're going to move to Syria, Lebanon, Libya, Somalia, Sudan, and Iran.
And they use al-Qaeda to do it. Let's go to Max in Wisconsin, active military. Are you Army, Marines? And then we're going to go to Steve and others that are holding. What's your take on this, Max?
Hello, Mr. Jones. I was wondering if you'd like to know how to stop this situation in Syria.
Well, yeah, have sanity prevail and have the American people stop the globalists. I mean, what's your take on it?
Okay, well, like in Serbia, when they did mortar attacks in the northern Croatian border, they have to provide targeting systems and GPS coordinates via satellite.
That's right. So they have GPS jammers, and the Russians reportedly have those.
The same thing will be going on in Syria right now. If you find the corporate company that probably has connections to an American company or another company, such as L3 Communications or such MPRI, companies like that, you can probably backlog that back to the state.
Yeah, we've had a lot of people calling in saying track the contractors, and when they're actually the contracts in the last 2 years have been going on assisting the rebels. I want my reporters to look into that and do some reports. I've seen that. But no, they've been moving all sorts of even heavy equipment in, not just things like that. I mean, is there any way to unjam when the Russians jam?
Well, it's not jamming. It's more providing for the chemical attack. They use mortars, right?
Yes.
So, in order to launch those mortars, especially with chemical warfare, you have to be very, very accurate. And the rebels themselves cannot provide such accuracy. So that must be done.
No. I get your point. No, exactly. The State Department's directing all this. So, yeah, I mean, I'm sure Kerry probably sat around in his office with the coordinates. Sir, we're going to hit this area. It's a civilian area that'll be used. But stay there. I want to come back to you. I mean, you could just see Kerry in there with the computer screens picking the targets, probably. I mean, that's who does that. And then he can go out and give you a speech about it after he killed all those kids. I'll say it. He's the prime suspect. I believe John Kerry murdered the children. We'll be right back, sir. I'm going to come back to you, Max, and then Stephen. All right, folks, we're back live. You know, when I talk to active duty, though, they'll never even talk about what they're doing because they don't want to end up like Bradley Manning. I get that. But then they go too far because they're just like, I would look in this general area at the L3 systems used to target these things and look at the contracts instead of just saying, hey, these groups are over there aiding the rebels. That's actually come out in the news. I just want your perspective as active duty about what does it feel like to be in a military run by foreign banks in an occupied America, trying to start war with Russia, aiding al-Qaeda. And then going, well, Assad's a bad guy. No, he's not. He was democratizing the country. They don't want free countries over there. They're going to put jihadis in to run around murdering everybody. So Max, specifically, it's on record. There are CIA commandos, MI6, SAS, you name it, actually leading different brigades of the scum that's over there, these martyrs brigades. So that's actually come out in the news. I wonder how those people feel being part of this. And I wonder how the Obama folks think they're going to cover this up. Your take on that, Max, and then we'll go to Stephen.
Well, I agree with you. I wish that I could provide more specifics, but these shadowy groups and agencies and corporations are always changing up their names and using the bureaucracy kind of against us. And the
do you think they're using contractors or commandos?
They're using both, but the ones for the communication intel is most likely a corporate entity that was sent in there for some sort of other reason in order to provide like a cover. Because, it's pretty sophisticated stuff. Sure.
Let me ask you this question. I know both are in there, but I'm saying aiding them up front with a chemical attack. I mean, I wouldn't want to be the people helping the rebels launch a chemical attack. Those people are all going to get killed. I mean, how dumb are they?
Let's just say they're cut from a different cloth and they believe in a different God than we do. They worship a different entity than we do. And frankly, I'm sick of the blood, sick of the bloodshed. Children's are not. We all deserve a better lifestyle. That's all I can say.
Do you think Obama will get away with attacking Syria to aid al-Qaeda openly?
It's if we let him. It's up to us. It's the same thing with Serbia. That was the first time it was whites killing whites. I don't mean that racially, but we let it happen. And, you can pick a war if the American people let it happen and let the blood be on their hands. Depends on how much soap, how much Gojo they're going to use to try to wash it off. But it seems like we're already pretty much just doused and soaked in this blood of civilians that we don't even know the numbers of how many.
Well, it's just crazy to be aiding al-Qaeda when they're going to wreck the whole place. I appreciate your call. Let's talk to Stephen in California, active duty Marine. Stephen, what is your take on this, and what are people saying around you? I want to get the sense of the military. Are they getting what's happening here?
It's a pleasure to be on the show, Alex. Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm active duty. I'm a Marine over here at Marine Corps Air Station Miramar in San Diego. Most of the military, like the younger guys, they don't pay attention to much to what's going on. They're too busy, trying to be a Marine and stuff. That's the way I feel it is. The higher ups, you tell them about it. I try to tell them about it. I say, hey, do you guys know who Alex Jones is? He's a patriot. You guys should listen to him. He has a lot of good points of what's going on. People just kind of don't know who you are, and the people that do know who you are, they're already good to go. I'm not surprised that they're going to try to go after Syria now and stage a false flag.
Well, I've got to say, now I guess that's out at the Navy SEAL base there. I've got to say the Navy, and I've said this before, is the least awake group I run into. The Army, it's over half. Marines, a lot of times, is about 30-40%. Some of the younger folks don't know what's going on, but you're saying when you do talk to people who do listen to the show, they're aware. I mean, look, when WorldNet Daily's covering this, they're in trouble. This is all starting to come out. Anything else you'd like to add, Stephen?
Honestly, Alex, I've been trying to call into your show for a while. I've been listening for a year.
Well, stay there. We're back in 60 seconds. We'll start the next hour. We're going to go to you. Then Dr. Jerome Corsi, who was on yesterday, he'll be joining us with the bombshell info. Evidence, Syrian gas attack, work of U.S. allies.
Big Brother, mainstream media, government cover-ups. You want answers? Well, so does he. He's Alex Jones on the GCN Radio Network. And now, live from Austin, Texas, Alex Jones.
Russia and China are warning against a strike, saying they're going to respond if the West caught red-handed running al-Qaeda, staging the chemical attack. Dr. Corsi has the proof. He's joining us in the next segment. That's right, folks. The rebels have been caught 3 separate times launching chemical attacks. That's why John Kerry, it's a 7-minute video. Will you guys watch it in there and queued up the part? And it's in the middle towards the end. It's in like the last third, I think. I played it last night and analyzed it. He says, and it doesn't matter who did it. We need to invade because they know they did it. I mean, it is so crazy. I mean, I know it's in the Wall Street Journal as well, but I want to play you that clip. So just watch the last half of the 7-minute Kerry clip. It's in the computer from a State Department briefing, and I want to show that. Going back to Stephen, who is a Marine stationed out in Southern California, there in San Diego. You wanted to make some points. Go ahead.
Thanks, Alex. I want to bring up the fact, I'm not surprised that that the military is doing, because the Marine Corps, and specifically, I can only speak for the Marine Corps. They're really shady. Regarding especially suicide. I had my best friend Jeffrey Genn, PFC Genn. He died April 24th, 2009. He committed suicide in embarrassment. When I was active duty, he was my best friend. He committed suicide, and my staff and SEAL made me go in his room and inventory his stuff and take all of his furniture out of his room, because I was working for the barracks manager at the time. The Marine Corps, I've seen personally, I've seen the Marine Corps do shady stuff, and it was really terrible. That I had to go through that.
Well, that's putting it lightly. The Marine Corps for over 100 years has overthrown more than 80 governments. Smedley Butler himself helped overthrow 6. And he wrote a book called War is a Racket, 2-time Congressional Medal of Honor winner. He was in line to be the commandant of the Marine Corps, but he refused it because he was offered that job to be part of a coup d'etat against America. And he would be called a traitor by the foreign banks. No, he's a patriot. And, of course, I mean, now the military is in the hands of the globalist. The average military person, after they're out, is the #1 enemy of the globalist, because you've been trained to be a killer, but you don't work for them now. So the military better wake up and defend the Republic and decide what side they're on. And spread the word to everybody you know. Go ahead, sir.
Absolutely. I have your fluoride stickers, your blue fluoride stickers. I have your Pro One Traveler, Pro One Bicultural Traveler to filter my water. I eat organic. I'm looking into your tangy tangerine pretty soon. I've changed my life since I started listening to your show, to be honest, in a good way, you know what I mean?
Well, God bless you.
Most of the stuff I hear you say, sometimes I think it sounds crazy, but I get on my laptop and I look it up and I see that you're legit, you know what I'm saying?
Well, God bless you, sir, and I appreciate your call. Yeah, let me bring something up that he mentions, the water filters we sell. I didn't plug anything last hour, and the books, the videos. We go out and find great things that we use and then give you a very low price or the lowest price. Sometimes manufacturers will not let you have the lowest price, but close to it. We give you very low or the lowest price on everything we sell, and we're funding ourselves with your support. And so it is important that we be funded. We're not funded by your tax dollars like the globalists are. We're funded by you in free will, free association, supporting us. And plus, get the Pro Pure Gravity Fed filters and filter your water. It's so important with all the glyphosate and fluoride in the water, the Roundup. It's one of the biggest things you can do. Infowarsstore.com, Infowarshealth.com, where you can find all the longevity products discounted, free shipping when you sign up for AutoShip. And then your purchase goes to supporting this transmission and what we're doing. So Infowarshealth.com for all the great supplement products, Infowarsstore.com for the books, the videos, the magazine, all the tools to wake friends and family up. And all orders get a free Citizen Rule Book and bumper stickers in them. We've got packages at cost of pins and little business cards to hand out to wake people up. All of it at InfoWarsStore.com or InfoWarsHealth.com. And there's also phone numbers there on the site, like 888-253-3139.
Big Brother, mainstream media, government cover-ups. You want answers? Well, so does he. He's Alex Jones on the GCN Radio Network. And now, live from Austin, Texas, Alex Jones.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us. We are on the verge of what could be World War III. As Dr. Jerome Corsi said yesterday, and as many top analysts are now saying, the Russians and the Chinese are now threatening NATO, saying if you strike them, there will be repercussions. There are Russian troops piling off ships right now into Syria, and Russian civilians are being evacuated. NBC News is announcing that they plan to start bombing as early as Thursday or Friday. It'll happen Thursday or Friday. The Washington Post has the headline from a Reuters poll, scientific. Only 9% of respondents said they believed that the U.S. military should respond to what's happening in Syria. And the vast majority also do not believe that the Syrian government launched a chemical attack. Yeah, because it goes against logic, and we've caught them in these lies over and over again. And no one believes a word Obama says. Now, here's my issue. When Kerry gets up and says it doesn't matter, we're going to play this clip coming up, says it doesn't matter who did it. That's also in the Wall Street Journal. We've got to go in because the chemicals have been used. It's incredible. Well, there are videos up on WorldNetDaily.com. We have it linked on Infowars.com right now. And WorldNet Daily has the Arab speakers to break it down. We've checked it. It's how it translates. They're up there with the mortars, firing them. This is unprecedented. Here's the headline. Syria gas attack, work of U.S. allies. Dr. Jerome Corsi, very respected person, of course, PhD, Harvard University, political science, best-selling, New York Times best-selling author of Unfit for Command and so many other amazing books, worked as a consultant at the highest levels of national security. I'll just leave it at that. I know large areas of the Pentagon know this is a pure evil, what's about to happen, and the Russians will probably respond. So I want to give him the floor. We only got him for this segment. Dr. Corsi, how big is this that they're doing this and that they don't have support? Bush had 72% in Gallup polls, and Pew had 72 in 2003. I think this is the total collapse of credibility, but it's kind of like Hitler wasn't supported at the end either, but he was still in control of the Reich. What are we seeing here? And break down this bombshell.
Well, first of all, Alex, the article we got running on WorldNetDaily, WND.com right now, as you say, I went yesterday and checked with the Arabic-speaking sources, Walid Shobat, who helped write the article. There's numerous videos on the internet and in the Arabic-speaking world that make it clear the rebels are the ones who have launched the sarin gas attacks, not the Assad government. Now, the Assad government is not a great government. I mean, there's no good guys in Syria, but the point is the truth is the truth. And I think the attempt by the Obama administration, which now appears to be the second time the Obama administration has tried this, it was the narrative being run out of the White House back in May that the Assad government was launching chemical attacks. But the problem is that there's no validation of it. There's no hard proof. John Kerry, Secretary of State, said yesterday he has indisputable proof. Well, let's see it. Why don't we see this proof? It's not there. Even the United Nations, going back to May, doubted very seriously that the Assad regime, as bad as it is, was going to use sarin gas attacks. As you said, it does not make any sense. Why, when the Assad government's winning, would it resort to sarin gas attacks? And with video after video, with testimony after testimony coming out of the Arab world, In Syria, it's widely known that it's the rebels, which are, a group of Al-Qaeda, Muslim Brotherhood, ragtag, radicals that, are opposing the regime and the Obama administration is supporting. These are not good guys. And to think that they wouldn't use sarin gas attacks stretches the imagination, especially when we have pictures of the sarin gas arsenals with the gas and the other chemicals coming from Saudi Arabia. I mean, it seems to me that if the Obama administration is going to go to war on Syria, which is what this means, a very massive step. I mean, I can't emphasize to people listening how much we are on the verge here of World War III. Russia and China are not going to sit by if Obama thinks he can wag the dog to get attention off of his other problems or, run a false flag here. It isn't going to fly with Russia and China saying to Obama, you don't have the evidence and we're not going to tolerate a military attack. That's it. That's it. Alex, it was a very, very frightening moment in U.S. in world history.
Very, very succinctly said, Dr. Corsi. I want to break something down for my listeners and viewers out there. You have never talked like this in the decade that I've been interviewing you or more. And I've talked to a lot of other top people on and off air about this. Colonel Schaefer is one of them, but many others off record. And they all are saying exactly what you're saying. And it's so transparent. How does Obama think he's going to get away with this?
Well, again, I think the Obama administration has gotten to the point where they think they can lie with impunity. Certainly that's what this appears to be. And, Alex, I don't think we've been in a more critical moment since the Cuban Missile Crisis. Now, the Cuban Missile Crisis, Jack Kennedy had photographs of the missiles from U-2 flights over Cuba. And Jack Kennedy showed those to the world. He went to the United Nations and he said, here's the pictures of the missiles in Cuba. Obama has not done that. Obama has not presented to the American people or to the UN his evidence of the Assad regime being involved in the sarin gas attacks. And you've got Assad denying it, you've got Russia denying it, you've got China denying it, all of them with logic on their side. And we published at WND the videos where you can see with your own eyes the terrorists, the rebels, the forces Obama's supporting being the culprits in the gas attacks.
Absolutely, and we're linked to that article as well in Mirrored at Infowars.com. It's very important that people get all the articles that are coming out at WND.com, DrudgeReport.com, Infowars.com, and get those out to everybody. And I'm very sad to see some of the mainline conservative talk radio saying, well, I don't like Assad or I don't like the rebels either, but I don't like Obama, but we got to get behind this. I think Obama is gambling that if they can start the war, and then undoubtedly they've got Russian anti-aircraft missiles, Russian anti-ship missiles, you will see Americans die, probably in large numbers. They think Americans are going to get behind this. I don't think that's the case. Because usually going into one of these, they've got over 70%. They've got 9% approval rating. I think this is one of the most historic things to ever happen to the globalist. I believe we've seen a collapse in their con game here, and that the fact that the rebels had to launch this because they're losing the war, the al-Qaeda rebels, shows desperation on so many fronts. Dr. Corsi, what does this poll number signify? And is there any way for Obama and his kleptocratic wing to back off out of this, or will they really try to commit us to World War III? What are your sources saying?
Well, I want to make a couple of points. One, first of all, people got to realize that, Russia and China are not borrowing $1 trillion a year to make their budget. We are. We're in a vastly weakened economic position, and the world knows it. Secondly, where American public opinion is right now is not in favor of a military action, and I don't see it changing quickly. Now, let's say we have a cruise missile attack or we have a bomber attack over Syria. If we get involved in a shooting war, not just with Syria, but with Russia, or with Russia and China, the ramifications of that are unpredictable and unpredictably frightening. Because if Russia and China say, the United States, you can't sustain a war economically, and you're on the wrong side here. And if Russia and China stand behind Assad, which they are doing, we're escalating the whole conflict beyond the level of surrogates into where we're risking a direct confrontation with Russia, certainly with Russia.
And giving them the moral high ground, which history shows you cannot win a immoral war long term.
Well, where is, at least with Jack Kennedy in the White House, he sent Adlai Stevenson, who was the UN ambassador to the UN, and he showed the pictures of the missiles in Cuba. Today, we don't have a single thing.
By the way, they're coming out with this new dossier, but I expect that to be more, phony baloney as well. What are you expecting?
Remember, we've gone through this. The leftist duplicity here is amazing to me. When it was George W. Bush saying there were weapons of mass destruction in Iraq, the left, John Kerry, Barack Obama were all over the issue, saying it was a lie. And now you've got Obama and Kerry using the same lie to advance what could end up being another phony pretext for a phony war. I think the American people can see through this.
Sure, we got 1 minute left. Bottom line, what do you expect to happen in your gut?
My gut is that the Obama administration is so far out in the limb, they're going to attack, and we're going to come to the edge of World War III.
Unfortunately, I agree with you. I hope everybody's saying their prayers for their children tonight. And Grant?
People better understand how serious this is. It's been one of the most serious moments in world history that we have ever faced.
And they're all doing it because these power-mad control freaks that run Washington think they're invincible.
And Obama does not want us talking about the IRS scandal with the Tea Party groups or the NSA eavesdropping on
Benghazi.
Or Benghazi. Or the fact that we're again out of money and spending another $1 trillion we don't have on an out-of-control budget. Obama doesn't want these topics.
Doctor, we're going to have to get updates from you every day if we can do it. I know you've got to go. Please join us again tomorrow. I know you're on top of this like no one else. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Alex. Great to be with you.
Wow. Man, I'm going to tuck my kids in tonight twice and kiss them twice. I mean, I hate the New World Order. These people are the greatest threat to civilization. We've got to stop these people. We'll be right back. Stay with us. In the entire next hour, I'm going to cover the geopolitical ramifications of a NATO strike on Syria and the World War III implications of that Dr. Corsi just talked about. But also looking at major threats to humanity and why the elite is so arrogant, the technocracy. We have scheduled for the balance of the hour Dr. Noel Sharkey, who is a PhD professor of artificial intelligence and robotics and a professor of public engagement at the University of Sheffield, Department of Computer Science, and journal editor. He has held a number of research positions at the UK in Essex and Sheffield, and also at Yale and Stanford. And I'm not going to go over all of his bio, but he's one of the top professors looking at the merger of man and machine, the technocracy, all the things that are happening. And a lot of governments are now listening to him. He has the campaign to stop killer robots, as it's known. Professor says robots to patrol cities. What is your ID number? What are you doing here? That's the headline by Paul Watson. He also wrote the paper, Big Robot is Watching You, Report on the Future of Robots for Policing, Surveillance, and Security by Professor Noel Sharkey. And he joins us for the balance of the hour. We really appreciate him coming on today because I wanted people to really think about, as humans, we better decide the future of our development collectively and through free thinking ideas and renaissance, not through the military-industrial complex worldwide that Eisenhower warned of, that was already deciding our journey when he gave that speech in 1961. And he said it's the technological elite in his speech running that, who a lot of them are eugenicists and pretty anti-human, and they think the computers are better than us if you look at what they put out. So we've got him on, and I just think people should know about this. He was already scheduled last week. I appreciate him coming on and being cut a little bit short because of the horrible Syria situation, but this is very important as well. We got a long segment coming up. This is a short segment. Dr. Sharkey, we're very honored to have you here with us. In a nutshell, what are we facing? What are we dealing with here, sir?
Oh, hi, Alex. It's great to be back on the show again. That's an honor as well. Thank you for that. Well, we're facing all sorts of things. There's a lot of bad things that could happen, but one of the worst is really, for me, is the use by the military of autonomous weapons or robots. And what we mean by that, in simple terms, is simply a weapon that, once it's been launched, can select its own targets and kill them without further human intervention. And that, to me, is a very, very scary thought.
And even last year, the U.S. Air Force already launched an autonomous drone, and I know the UK has already as well.
Yes, that's right. There's the X-47B, which is the United States one, and they're fairly advanced in testing. It can leave an aircraft carrier, land on an aircraft carrier, and there was a lot of bravo about what it was going to do in the Pacific. But since our campaign has started, they're starting to say things like, yeah, there's going to be a human supervising it if it's used for attacks.
Continue, Doctor.
Oh, sorry. So they're saying there's going to be a human supervising it, but they're not being clear about what they mean by human supervising it. I've heard your Dan Quayler from your Congressional Committee for Unmanned Systems, the Congressional Caucus, saying that, for instance, that there'll always be somebody on the loop to program it. And that does not fill me with joy, I must say, because the idea of a weapon system going off and finding its own targets at the minute is ridiculous, because there's no way that a robot can discriminate between a child and a soldier. At the moment, let me put it in perspective. Just this week, there's been an announcement for a massive European project. Okay? 7 million euros. That's about, I don't know what that is, $8.5 million. And what the project is, it's 6 big universities, all specialists in robotics. And what they're going to be working over the next 5 years is finding a system, a robot, that can tell the difference between an old person lying on the ground collapsed and a duffel bag. That's how advanced we are. So if that's the case, how could you possibly be contemplating sending these things into the theater of war? It's absurd to me and morally outrageous.
Absolutely. Plus, the reason I wanted to get you on, the big issue for me is that the technocrats act like they're not even human. They're basically inbred psychopaths, so they're not really even human. We see them throughout history, Stalin, Hitler, all these people. They want machines because they'll follow orders. Soldiers could say no to immoral orders. I want to talk about the Nuremberg question here of just following orders. You know, will we execute robots or will we execute people that build the killer robots? Stay with us.
Crashing through the lies and disinformation. It's Alex Jones on the GCN Radio Network.
Here come the autonomous drones, all programmed and run by the same folks that control Goldman Sachs. And JP Morgan with their high-frequency trading, milking billions off a day of investors' money. It's all a big gamed technocracy programmed by the little globalist elves who are absolutely cornering the market on humanity worldwide. People ask me, what's your agenda? As if you can't listen to the show and tell what it is. But sometimes on the street, people walk up and say, what's the point of all this? I don't know. I want justice. I want my children to have a future. I don't want to just turn the world over to technocratic machines and smart meters that run my life. We're already in an incredible technocracy right now. Can you imagine how much worse it's going to get with these cold-blooded eugenicists running things? We're going back to the amazing Dr. Noel Sharkey to look at the big questions we were just posing here in just a moment. But before we do that, there's 2 new films out that I'm the exclusive distributor of, and they're both excellent. American Drug War 2, it's been 5 years since he put out a film. This thing is now airing starting this week on cable. It's on Showtime. The point is it's very powerful and exposes how the drug war destroys families, how the government's drug dealing, just all of it. It's very powerful, great way to wake people up. Get the film at InfoWarsStore.com, and your purchase also supports the overall broadcast and what we're doing in the news division. Then we have the film of myself and a bunch of professors and psychologists and psychiatrists and Army psychological warfare colonel, and just everybody's in there. It's very powerful. It is State of Mind, getting into the whole history and current and future systems of mind control. And the film is available on DVD and Blu-ray at InfoWarsStore.com or by calling toll-free 888-253-3139. And then lastly, we sell the best gravity filtration system. I did 2 years of study, didn't carry any gravity-fed filters because we used to carry another one, and then I just had some issues, looked at the competition, did research. Took me 2 years to find ProPure, test it, look at it, do the side-by-side comparisons. It is the best gravity-fed filter out there. Blows away the competition side-by-side. It's available 10% off the lowest price at InfoWarsStore.com with promo code WATER. Just at checkout, enter WATER. The evil dihydrogen monoxide, just type in the word water, W-A-T-E-R, and get 10% off the already lowest price. Cuts out the fluoride, the glyphosate with the Pro 1. It's all there with the ProPure with the Pro 1. InfoWarsStore.com or call. We can answer your questions and take your order over the phone. 888-253-3139. Go check out the whole line right there at InfoWarsStore.com. 888-253-3139. In my nightly news division, the magazine, the syndicated radio show, we're reaching about 15 million people a week one way or another globally. I want to double that the next year, and it is your financial support and shopping with the good guys, voting with your dollars, your euros, whatever the case is around the world that funds this operation. So I want to thank all of you out there. Be sure and support our local AM and FM affiliates by sponsoring them and supporting their sponsors as well. Okay, so the professor of artificial intelligence and robotics who has done research projects at Yale and Stanford, Stanford Research Institute's the real top of the pyramid. He joins us from England, where the Watsons are from. They're in beautiful Sheffield, Robin Hood land. What about the issue of not just the robots getting out of control, but the Pentagon's own plan to get rid of all combat troops, all combat aircraft, have it all just programmed, and then have technicians on floating fortresses? They say they're going away from aircraft carriers to more like giant 1984 the equivalent of oil rig cities that are basically autonomous robot bases. The robot factories back on the mainland are built by robots. You have technicians. Already most AI people say they don't even know how the computers work. Different experts have to come together. I mean, aren't we losing our humanity through this? And what would happen with the old Nuremberg thing of just following orders doesn't cut it? We already have the military saying no to a lot of attacks today and stopping Bush and then now Obama from launching bigger wars. That's come out. What about once it's 90% autonomous robots? I mean, isn't this like Attack of the Clones or something, Doctor?
Yeah, you're exactly right there. I mean, I don't go as far into the future as you with what you're saying. I think that part of that is a kind of U.S. military complex fantasy, to be honest, with a lot of saber rattling. And what you're going to get is a lot of failed systems. And that's going to be disastrous for your country, really. But in terms of a dictatorship or some sort of authoritarian regime, well, you imagine the Arab Spring in Egypt, the soldiers refused to fire. Gaddafi's soldiers refused to fire. Autonomous robots are not going to refuse to fire on anybody, are they? They just do what you program them to do. So if you're an evil dictator, all you need is a bunch of very loyal henchmen who are programmers, and you're away. You're going to be able to kill people left, right, and center, particularly if you're not very moral, like Syria at the moment, and you're not really concerned about civilians. That's a perfect place for robots at the moment. I hate to say that, and I don't want to put ideas into Assad's head, but that would be the ideal thing for him, would just have robots slaughtering everybody. And it wouldn't be that hard when you're not worried about the morality.
Break that down, some of the systems. It's not just drones you write about. They've got drone tanks, drone cars, drone submarines, swords. They've got the eater, as it's called, that like eats dead people to fuel itself. We just lost his audio. Go ahead, Doctor.
Oh, but I'm getting music now.
It's all right. We'll get you reconnected. Skype's wonderful, but sometimes it has problems. I want him to break down really when he gives these big conferences to governments, you name it, what their concerns are. Because the good news is that there are people in the system as well that are concerned. Sir, you were telling my producer that the good news is a lot of people in government are concerned, but then also want to get into some of the systems that are being developed. You've got the floor. I mean, give us a briefing.
Okay. Well, let me tell you a bit of a story then. Last year, we started this International Committee for Robot Arms Control, a small group of 4 of us international in 2009. There are 26 of us now, professionals, and we're an NGO now. And what happened was last year, Human Rights Watch came to see me in Sheffield to discuss the issues. And they decided to, along with the great Article 36, a British NGO, they decided to work with us and start a campaign, and the Nobel Women's Initiative. So lots of Nobel Peace Prize winners there. And so we got together. Human Rights Watch in November last year wrote a report called Losing Humanity, the Case Against Killer Robots. I advised them on that. And that started getting governments talking a little bit, the US at least, because before that we could not get any international discussion at all. But Human Rights Watch is big, so they managed to do something. The Department of Defense 3 days later issued guidelines for the development of autonomous weapons, saying they'd always be supervised in some sort of way. And I'll get into that a little bit more in a few minutes, if you like, about what they're planning. So after that, we got together in New York after that, and then we launched a campaign from the UK in April the 23rd this year. And that was a very successful launch of a campaign. We've got over 40 NGOs, including Amnesty International, real biggies. And so we're really pushing governments now. But, so it started them chattering a bit, which they weren't doing at all before. And let me just take a digression here for 1 second and tell you why it's very, very important to me that governments talk to each other. Because what they're not thinking about, the United States in particular, and I must say that I love the United States, I've lived there, but one of the problems for me is it's extremely blinkered. It thinks it's the only technological country in the world. We'll come up with a technological solution. They did the same with the atomic bomb. They didn't really think the Russians were going to get it so quickly. So they come up with these brilliant developments. They're very creative. And then everybody else in the world copies them. And they think that they're going to build these autonomous robots and they want to send swarms of them out. It's force multiplication, they call it. So the idea is to use swarms of them to beat their enemy. But their enemy are going to have them. China are developing them. Russia are developing them. Israel are developing them. The UK are developing them. Everybody will have them if we carry on like this. And the one thing that nobody knows, nobody on this planet knows, if you've got hidden secret programs, strategic programs for fighting, when those robots meet each other, nobody knows what the hell's going to happen. Anything could happen. I can't predict it. So that's a real worry. Now, the good news for us was that Christoph Haynes, who's the Special Rapporteur for extrajudicial killings for the United Nations, wrote a report. We all talked to him about it and discussed it with him, and he presented that report to the United Nations in May the 29th this year. And that report is calling for a complete moratorium throughout the world on the development of lethal autonomous robots. Now, that's great news, but of course, all the governments now, like the UK, have been debating it in Parliament and the House of Lords. The United States have been debating it. France has been debating it. 24 countries showed up to debate it. But the big nations are saying, well, of course you're right. These can't work with international humanitarian law. They can't comply. You're right. They can't discriminate in things yet. So we're going to make sure they're supervised. But now the big question that comes up, and it's a depressing question, is what do they mean by supervised? Do they mean some guy presses a button and stands there watching it while it kills people? Do they mean it's like the Patriot missile, which gives you 10 seconds to veto it if it finds a target? That's not what we want. We want proper, meaningful human supervision of all technology that is going to kill people. I better let you have a word there, Alex.
No, it's true. It's true. If I don't shut up, then I'll never shut up. So I can either shut up completely or just sit back and listen to you or have so many points I'll just be interjecting. We were just showing an Air Force We were just showing an Air Force training video of a drone flying over and spilling out, it was a futuristic projection, a bunch of baby killer drones. And then they already admit in Department of Homeland Security training drone videos, it shows them targeting American gun owners. So they're already fantasizing, so all these cowardly government people can just send out a bunch of little, foot-long or half-foot-long robots with nerve gas in them, or with a hand grenade they throw at you, or with a with a .357 Magnum mounted in it, or a shotgun to kill us. And so it's just a bunch of bureaucrats fantasizing because robotics has gotten cheaper, weaponizing everything in just an orgy of evil. And I'm so sick of it. How about real conventions, and just like we've done with chemical weapons, biological weapons, nuclear weapons, how about we have conventions and use Isaac Asimov's first rule of robotics, that you can have no robotic system that can do harm? Because obviously, once you allow this out of the box, it's going to move towards a singularity with the entire architecture of the entire robotic development system, not like NASA where so much technology came out of it to make our lives better, because it wasn't warlike. Now everything's warlike, so everything has a basic architecture for war, and the computers that may become AI someday, or the expert tell us if we think that'll happen, will fundamentally have been engineered to kill. So, I mean, it just sounds like the worst case scenario.
I think one thing you're right there, Asimov's first law, which is the only law you can really apply, a robot must not harm a human. That would, to me, would be a perfect rule. Now, what we're trying to do, and as you know, I'm a professor of robotics, but I've now become an activist because of this, having never been an activist in my life before. But the problem is that what we're trying to get done here, and I've got really good people with me, the people working with me in this campaign are the people who got cluster munitions banned, the people who got landmines banned. And what we're trying to do is get a new international treaty to ban the kill function. We don't want to ban autonomous robots. They can be used for monitoring, global climate change and a lot of useful things, but we want no robots ever to decide to kill a human. That should just be written into the statement that goes in the sky in stone, as it were.
Sure.
Like that. But one of the big worries, another big worry of mine that you've just pointed to, is this sort of idea of using robots in the civil world for policing. And they talk about using them with non-lethal weapons. Sure, there's no such a thing as a non-lethal weapon, really. If you look at the photographs of non-lethal weapons being applied, I mean, they maim people. They don't kill them, it's true, most of the time, but they maim them. Although tasers have killed a lot of people in the United States. But the whole idea of this creeping authoritarianism, I would call it, and people just think, well, people in the UK say, if you've got nothing to hide, you've got nothing to worry about. Well, the problem is, if you put these things into the hands of governments in the West change every 4 or 5 years, put them into the hands of the governments. Each new government inherits these weapons, they inherit this technology, and the laws can change because you don't set up laws you can't enforce. Now when you've got strike action in the UK, you've got collections of people protesting, you'll start seeing robots being used, maybe with water cannon to begin with, and you could start seeing a creeping authoritarianism coming throughout the West. And it can happen really quickly. People laugh at me when I say this and say, oh no, we're a democracy, this could never happen. Well, you know as well as I do, you're the sort of person who does know what could happen if governments get this technology.
Well, there's no doubt. I mean, they've already been caught using drones domestically in cattle rustling things with the Department of Defense. They're already using robots with the SWAT teams to go in and find out where you're at so they can kill you. I mean, the entire architecture, as I've said, and I'm not a professor like you, I just read what you write when countless others write. In fact, most, even though you and a lot of your colleagues, I know at some time are funded by government grants, almost every AI or robotics professor I talk to says that, yes, this is going in the wrong direction, it's very dangerous, but it doesn't matter because the technology just gets shipped off to all these big defense contractor companies that, I mean, look at the robot smart meters controlling our houses. Look at the robot face scanning cameras and license plate reading cameras. I mean, just because something doesn't walk around like Robbie the robot doesn't mean it's not a surveillance pod, an Imperial probe droid. But let me ask you this question. What do you expect on the truly artificially intelligent front? I mean, obviously, when it comes to acting like a human, being able to reproduce, being able to have sentient thoughts. They're probably pretty far off from that. But at least a computer that malfunctions and believes its mission is to say kill everybody or something else, I think that is becoming a probability.
Certainly, they can send a robot in to kill people. There's no question of that. I'm a bit skeptical about the time course of AI. I think it's going to take a very long time to get smart machines, but that's not going to stop the developments anyway. They're going to happen, smart machines or not, and that's one of the big worries. But as you say, what you've alluded to a couple of times is the big word that's used. I talk to weapons manufacturers quite a lot, believe it or not, and one of the big words that's used in the United States, and it's helped by the recession a lot, is the word jobs. Okay, this is bringing jobs to our people. You know, I talked to something like 200 weapons manufacturers at a big conference I was at, a big convention, and I walked around saying to everybody, well, you know, they were making, I mean, these companies making the tiniest little components like sensors for your Predator robot, little bits of electronics. And I would say to all of them the same question, what are you going to do when Afghanistan stops? When Iraq stops? And they would all say the same thing. They would all say exactly the same thing. And that was, oh, we'll just start another war. Ha 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 ha. And they said it like a joke. But, you know, it wasn't very funny.
No, and it's not a joke. And here's the deal. The biggest battleground is in our domestic countries. And that's what they're deploying these into. Stay there. We're going to talk about that when we come back. Big news, by the way, on Syria. All right, folks, final segment with our guest. The entire third hour, we'll open the phones up for active duty, but also veterans. And I do this every few weeks on particular national security issues to get their take, because they're the ones that are going to be sent in until the robots replace them, the autonomous systems. And I want to know their take on the fact that Assad's come out, and this article's going up on Infowars.com in minutes. Kit Daniels did it off of Assad's statements that nobody's picking up, that we are a sovereign nation fighting al-Qaeda. And that's it, over 100,000 injected by the West. Now, I'm not a fan of Assad or Gaddafi or any of these guys. But the point is that they're trying to replace one corrupt system that's not offensive and that is democratizing with something far worse. And as Dr. Corsi said earlier in the hour, many analysts say this could turn into World War III. And here's the BBC. Syria crisis, Russia and China step up warning over strike. Russia and China have stepped up their warning against military intervention in Syria, and Moscow saying any such action would have catastrophic consequences. Their foreign minister likened the West to a monkey with a hand grenade. How about a monkey with nuclear weapons? And again, I've had Syrian opposition on, people that live in other countries that are famous, like Bibi, the Syrian girl. You know, his dad was like one of the top ministers. They hate Assad and say he's 10 times better than al-Qaeda. They were run out of the country, and they're against this because this is evil, ladies and gentlemen. And now the evidence. The Muslim extremists shot video of themselves loading the chemical weapon mortars. I hadn't predicted it'd be mortars. That's what those attacks look like. That's how they deployed it. I mean, that's why Kerry's saying, doesn't matter who did it now, we've got to invade. This is incredible. Now, this segues into the bombshell he was just dropping. These statements when he goes to these conferences, they're like, we'll just start a new war. Our money, the tens of trillions we've spent turning into an empire, has taken us from the greatest saving nation to now the greatest debtor nation. These guys that have jobs, sure, they've got jobs, but it sucks our economy dry. These Pentagon jobs are not good. These defense contractor jobs are not good. And now it's shifting these big companies, the robot companies, and they sold Austin like $15 million worth this year, 3 $5 million robots. And I looked them up. The robots don't even cost really $500,000 to build. In closing, sir, I mean, this is about the military-industrial complex run rampant for me. What is your final points, Dr. Noel Sharkey, and how do people visit your campaign against killer robots to learn more?
Well, I've given you the links. I've given your producer the links, so he's going to put them on your website, which will lead you to the right place to find out about this. But one thing it's worth saying, apart from the big industrial military complex and all this nonsense about jobs, it's really putting money in certain people's pockets, a lot of money, and that's what really is behind it. But one thing that people keep saying is, but surely robots are good, they lead to bloodless wars. Well, that's really not thinking at all. That's the usual blinkered thing that a lot of your United States lawyers come up with all the time. Oh, this would be great. We can have bloodless conflicts. Well, the problem is that there's been a continuous conflict almost, as far as I can see, since the Second World War. And this is not going to alleviate it at all. It just means you can carry on with low level of killing people constantly all the time if they're against your nation's interests. And people talk about, you don't have to commit troops. Well, I'm sorry, but, I don't want to see any young men being killed. I have friends fighting in Afghanistan, but without the threat of body bags coming home, it's very easy just to continue killing and killing and killing.
And I think you laid out the big giant key there, is this just allows us to sit here and watch football while our robot armies kill everybody, and it's not even in American interest. It is so immoral and cowardly to give, higher than Purple Heart awards to the drone pilots.
Oh, yeah. That was a good one.
Why don't we give them peace prizes like Obama?
Yeah, that's right. I think that every drone pilot should get a Nobel Peace Prize. That would fit well with what you're saying.
Wow. Okay, we've had your website up on screen for folks to visit, and we'll post it up on Infowars.com and links at everything you're doing. But Professor, thank you so much. Dr. Noel Sharkey, thank you so much. We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you for all your help, Alex.
Thank you for fighting for humanity's future. Third hour coming up.
Big Brother, mainstream media, government cover-ups. You want answers? Well, so does he. He's Alex Jones on the GCN Radio Network. And now, live from Austin, Texas, Alex Jones.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are now into the third hour, and we are broadcasting worldwide. Coming up in the next segment, I'm going to recap the latest bombshell developments. We also have a clip from last night with John Kerry and his statement about how, well, first off, he said there's no doubt Assad did the chemical weapons, but later he says it doesn't matter who really launched the chemicals. We can't allow a country to have these chemicals, so the UN must go in. So it's globalism. We're going to attack you for peace. And we're going to bring in rebels to do it and go after your legal weapons. And I've got a transcript that I'm going to be going over as well. We have the video as well, with Carney saying this is not regime change. In fact, that's the London Guardian with the transcript of that. Carney, of course, famously a few months ago said that they're launching non-lethal, lethal operations in different parts of the world. So it's non-lethal, lethal. So kill your neighbor, hypothetically, beat their brains out, and the cops shove his go, it's non-lethal, lethal. I'm Jay Carney. In fact, wear a Jay Carney suit. Look like a punk class president who you wouldn't trust, to water your plants when you're out of town. I mean, you take one look at Carney. He is an arrogant, narcissistic, full of himself jackass, criminal. And I want to say this, all the liars that work for this regime and all the media whores at CNN, MSNBC, you know who you are, who go along with all this warmongering, and the conservative talk show host that know full well what's going on and say we've got to attack Syria. You're the scum of the earth, and you are complicit in these war crimes. Good job for Dr. Corsi and WorldNet Daily coming out against us and saying it's a fraud. Good job for Drudge Report posting the article showing it's a fraud. Good job for Pat Buchanan coming out and saying this is a fraud. Good job to Infowars. Because, we stand on the right side of history. Assad is no angel cake, but compared to his dad, he is. He was a stabilizing force in the region, and he was trying to democratize, and they used that to be able to infiltrate and start this up. Makes his dad's point, doesn't it? So that's the problem. The globalists always introduce instability, which then helps dictators stay in power worldwide. The globalists want dictatorship because they can centralize control through it. And you're going to find out in the coming months and years, the men from the boys, who cares about humanity, who values the truth. Like Dr. Corsi said, he is a famous conservative, pretty much a neocon. And there he is having to admit these wars have been fraudulent and have bankrupted us, and that the al-Qaeda rebels are run by the White House. And there's videos of them staging the chemical attack. And he goes, Assad's bad, but the truth's the truth. Exactly. The truth is the truth. It isn't about, well, he's a bad guy, so let's do something, let's be conservative, 500 times worse? To say he's 10 times worse, no. You could go to Syria and go to the beach and hang out and go to movies, and women could go to college, and Jews and Christians could live in peace. And unless you were a radical, violent Islamic group, you could have freedom in that country. The anger against Assad is just like here, the government gives contracts to crony insiders. That's the tyranny. Is that just like in Egypt, Hosni Mubarak gave contracts to his buddies and screwed over taxpayers. It's exactly what our government's doing. And notice, only 9% of Americans, 91%, are against this war. 91% in the major Reuters poll that's out, and they don't care. They go ahead with it. Now, I mean, are we going to have somebody invade us because we've got a corrupt government and then blow the country up like they're doing us a favor? No thanks. No thanks. I don't want any foreign governments to invade to kick out Obama. It's the same type of deal. But Obama is at war with logic and truth. Assad comes out and just says, what about the logic? The article's up on Infowars.com. It's red linked. Assad says Syria is a sovereign country fighting al-Qaeda.
You are listening to an Infowars.com frontline report. If you are receiving this transmission, you are the resistance.
We're all riders on the storm, my friends. Into this world we're born. Into this world we're thrown.
Riders on the storm.
Let me just recap the top headlines and new developments, and I'm going to give the number out for active duty or retired Special Forces troops, particularly who've recently retired, to give us your take on this. It's on record for almost 3 years now. It's over 2.5 years. They've been funding al-Qaeda mainly, 60%, it's estimated by the Council on Foreign Relations, to invade out of Iraq, out of Jordan, and out of Turkey. No one knows the numbers. There's as many as 60,000 at any one time in the country. They believe it's over 200,000 have been injected in the last 2.5 years. And they're given U.S. weapons, you name it, German weapons, Dutch weapons, British weapons. They're now being given U.S. TOW missiles, heat-seeking missiles, French anti-aircraft missiles. That's the heat seekers they've got mainly. And now you'll notice now they're telling police departments, get ready for al-Qaeda to shoot down aircraft with heat seekers. And they won't even care when they shoot down our aircraft later. It'll be like, that traitor Alex says our government gave it to him, when it's on record they did. See, being a traitor is being informed. Being a traitor is loving America. Being a traitor is loving justice. Being a traitor is loving the truth. Being a traitor is being an American against the globalist occupation of this country. And Obama wants a big, giant distraction from everything that's happening. The IRS gate, the NSA gate, the persecution of the pro-life groups, the Benghazi gate, the Fast and Furious gate, and all the new stuff. The Muslim Brotherhood, it's coming out, being funded directly by Obama and his family. He's like making money, using covert money to then give his family large positions in the Middle East. I mean, this is incredible. It's like LBJ himself reportedly made over $500 million just on the dredging of one area off the coast of South Vietnam to bring in ships. And that was back in the 60s. He made $500 million off that. I mean, it's just the president personally is in there doing this, and he smiles at his idiot followers. But the good news is this is bombshell. Major Reuters poll out, and I'm going to dig through it here and show TV viewers the actual Washington Post headline. What the headline is, Syrian war, U.S. intervention in Syrian war, less popular than Congress, is the headline. I'm going from memory. I'll pull it out here. And there it is. New poll, Syrian intervention even less popular than Congress. Washington Post. Folks, it's already an intervention. Our dirty, evil government did the whole thing. And I want to explain something here. People say, well, how do you dislike the corrupt government but say you love our military? Our military is the most awake group I know. They're good men and women on average. They're awake, folks. It's like if your plane got hijacked by a hijacker and they put on the captain's uniform, which they a lot of times do because of psychological reasons. People tend to stop resisting just because they're in the uniform. We have criminals in the uniform of the president, the commander-in-chief, the leader of the Senate, the leader of the House. They're all globalists who themselves are out of control. I've studied criminology. I've studied megalomania, studying history. And you get the Roman Empire, the Babylonian Empire, Mesoamerican empires, you name it. When do they always go into decline? You'll have some king that comes from a line of people that was, tough, strong, focused, intelligent, was into art, literature, building up society, building aqueducts. It's the same story everywhere. And things thrive, population grows, there's good rule, everybody gets happy. Then his grandson's kind of a punk, but he gets into power 50 years later and is arrogant and puts some corrupt people in and gets a little jealous of some other folks that have some money, so he shuts them down. He decides to conquer some neighbors that they've been trading with for a long time, and that shuts down that productivity. And then they start conquering other neighbors and looting the peasants, with 80% tax rates to be able to fund the new wars. And then and then his own guard turns against him. So he brings in mercenaries to oppress them. And then he has a spoiled, rotten son that gets control, who likes to chain children up in the town square and chew their throats out in front of everyone. That was a common thing for some reason. Nero, was it Nero or Caligula that dressed up like a werewolf and would chain up the children in the banquet hall and rip their throats out nightly? I think it was Nero. Yeah, it was Nero, it wasn't Caligula. I mean, you can look that up, by the way. And just, it doesn't matter whether it was the Aztecs or the Romans. Finally, Vlad the Impaler, I think it was his granddaughter, would bathe in the blood of babies. They would chop their heads off and spew the blood onto her because she thought it made her look younger. That's, by the way, archaeology. They've dug that up. That's true. Bring in the peasant baby, chop its head off, and spray the blood on me. This is what we've allowed. It's like Hitler, Stalin, or Mao. We just have absolute ravenous scum of the earth in control that want to destroy themselves subconsciously. Look at what a degenerate Nero looks like. I mean, look at that. I mean, look how crazed on a power trip he looks. And those Romans could really get it down to what they look like. Look at that psycho demon. He finally committed suicide. He was so decadent. He said, I've murdered my family, burned the city down. The only thing I can do that's more evil is kill myself. Look it up. That's what Lenin said. He wrote poetry. You can pull it up. He said, I'd like to take over the planet and create weapons systems. And he talked about scientists that had theorized. They theorized by 1900 atomic weapons, but this was in the 30s. He said, I'd like to blow up the earth. No. Blow up the sun. No, blow up everything. And he said, my dream is to kill everybody. And he would go to a little island. This is actually, Clint Eastwood put this in one of his movies, a breakdown of it where a crazy hillbilly's killing white rabbits. And I always saw that and wondered, what does that mean? Where would you come up with that? And later I learned, he had a private island where they would stock thousands of white rabbits. They would run around with guns and hatchets just for like 8 hours straight, biting them, ripping their heads off, flopping around on the ground. I'm sorry to, what's that movie with Bridges that Clint Eastwood did? It's Lightfoot and something. No, it's not the Bridges. It's something in Lightfoot. The point is, it doesn't matter. That's based off what Lenin would do. And we're going to give these people nuclear weapons and everything, and Thunderbolt and Lightfoot. There you go. And that's the type of issue that we're facing here. And the sane people are going to have to stand up and take action against the psychopaths before they destroy the world. Because in the old days, the tyrants would run their course and collapse finally, and then the barbarians would come in and take over the primitives, and then society would start back over again. This time, that's not going to happen with the technocracy. They're going to do things to humanity the world has never seen before. You wonder, why do they put fluoride in the water when they know it increases cancer and brain damages? Well, they've all written white papers like the White House science czar. He wants you to be dumbed down so he can control you. They get off on walking through the mall or down the street looking at all their victims. It's a power trip. Well, let me tell you something, you pieces of crap. I see you, and I know who you are, and I know what you are. And I am here to try to ignite the spirit of liberty, and I can feel it already happening, and you will pay. You will be defeated. I am not going to stand by, and God is not going to stand by, and the American people and the rest of the planet that loves justice is not going to stand by and watch you filth run rampant anymore. Every stinking false flag they've pulled, they've gotten over 70% approval ratings to go into countries. But people now know, so they've polled conservatives, libertarians, liberals, you name it. The average is 9% support your new fraud. And that's why Kerry yesterday said, I want you to look at the images of these dead children. And I want you to understand how horrible it is. And then I'm sitting there watching it and wondered why I got probably more angry than I ever had in my life. Looking at this sack of arrogant, narcissistic garbage, drunk on the blood of innocents, in his fancy suit, threatening us that are awake, going, and how dare those of you claim the rebels, that Assad didn't do this. And then he later says, but it doesn't matter who did it. And then he goes on to say, it doesn't matter either. We have to go in and get the weapons, knowing full well it's going to come out the rebels did it. And who commands them? The State Department's running this illegal operation outside Congress. That's come out. And who heads up the State Department? You're looking at the guy that did it.
The UN investigation will not determine who used these chemical weapons.
See?
Only whether such weapons were used. A judgment that is already clear to the world.
That's what
I spoke on Thursday.
Now he goes on to talk about the children and everything else. I did the whole thing on the news last night and talked over it. I could hardly walk out of here last night. I was so freaked out and so exhausted. I'm going to be honest with you. People say, man, why are you angry? Why am I angry? My government is hijacked and run by an Ivy League piece of trash, an arrogant frat boy scumbag, a Nero wannabe in America's name. I mean, when my children get older, if they ever came, the police ever came, and it turned out one of my children done something horrible, I would feel terrible about it. Because it's in my name, and it means I failed. And it's the same thing. I have failed. We've all failed. We've got this disgusting trash butchering our country, waging war on us, saying veterans are the #1 terror threat. George Washington is bad in the Army manual. I mean, I can't even believe I'm saying that. It's so over the top. These people are the enemy. And the fact that I'm on over 160 stations and reach 15 million people a week shows America still got a chance to fix ourselves like Nineveh. To get that reprieve before judgment comes down on us. But I'm here to tell you, right now, just as Jonah warned Nineveh, those of us that have been warning people about what's happening, America is going to go into full bondage and hell on earth if we continue to allow these people to rule over us. We are going under judgment. How does God judge people? Read about Israel when they would do, and the prophets would tell them, you're going to be judged. You're going to be allowed to go into captivity. When you become evil, you judge yourself. You let the evil take over. They're not going to stop at Syria. They're not going to stop anywhere. You think they hate Syrians? They really hate Americans, the globalists.
I hear the train coming. It's rolling around the bend.
Yeah, and it could cause World War III. It's called open bombardment of Syria by NATO and the United States, run by Goldman Sachs and J.P. Morgan on record, with the Russians and the Chinese on the other side. And the globalists, of course, have funded them as well. They'll just sit back and make money out of the disaster, out of the crisis. And here's the deal. Iran says they're going to line up behind Syria. People really hate Iran. So, see, that's what Obama's counting on, is that once Iran attacks, or they'll attack Israel, then it's like, well, we got to be for it now. So you attack people and you push them into it, and then they know Americans will just get behind it. And of course, he thinks it's going to happen. I'm going to open the phones up after Dr. Paul Craig Roberts joins us for just 10 minutes of the next segment to give us his take for a few military people to join us on air. You can start calling now if you can hold 15, 20 minutes. But 800-259-9231, 800-259-9231. But Syria crisis, Russia and China step up warning over strike. That's BBC. Dr. Corsi, this is up on Infowars.com. Syria gas attack, work of U.S. allies. They got the videos of it, and the group's bragging. Oh, yeah. New polls, Syria intervention, even less popular than Congress, 9%. Al-Zawahiri, The leader of al-Qaeda praises what the West is doing, helping the rebels, and says Damascus first, then Cairo, then Jerusalem. I mean, who knows? Maybe Obama will end up supporting the al-Qaeda. I guess they are supporting the attack on Cairo, but how about they call them protesters on CNN and activists? How about calling them activists and people when they attack Jerusalem? Who knows? I've seen stranger things. They might actually support that. Continuing, international, I'll be a traitor for not supporting that, I guess. I don't like al-Qaeda, I'll admit it. I guess I'm a bad man. International pressure heats up. Hagel, U.S. ready to strike Syria immediately. On and on and on. Military strikes as early as Thursday. U.S. officials. NBC. I mean, this is a big deal. The Dow drops by 1% amid worries over Syria. This is the type of stuff we're dealing with. Let's go to the front page of Infowars.com. Assad says Syria is a sovereign country fighting al-Qaeda. That's like saying the sky was blue today. So that article just went up on Infowars.com. Please get that article out to everyone you know. Saudis threaten Russia with Olympic terrorist attacks unless it abandons Syria's support. Yeah, that's right. The Saudi terrorist state that's helping supply the jihadis is openly saying they're going to attack Russia with proxy soldiers if they don't hand over Syria to them. It's the NATO with the degenerate Saudi leadership doing all this. It's unbelievable, folks. I mean, our government's done some evil stuff before. This is just naked. And then they launch that nerve gas attack and get up there and talk about how they're humanitarians and blame it on other groups so they can kill hundreds of thousands more on the backs of a few hundred dead people they killed. And they know you have emotions. They're psychos, at least sociopaths. The only time they feel emotions when they're doing something evil. It's what animates them. Study criminology, folks. You need to understand our enemy. Assad says Syria, again, is a sovereign country fighting al-Qaeda. Americans, 91% opposition to Syrian war, insignificant to the technocrats, but it does show the mass awakening is happening. That is huge news. In your face, Miley Cyrus soft porn as Obama prepares to murder Syrians. Yeah, I saw articles where it's more popular in the news and on Twitter about Miley Cyrus, again, who's sold to the youth to try to corrupt them, and now she runs around bending over, simulating sex on TV, knowing everybody will pick up on it so she can sell more tickets. And again, if that's what you want to do, fine. My issue is, it shows the incredible immoralness that Americans sure have woken up and are against another war. They know, they always lie about stuff. I don't believe them. But so what? Let me see that girl bent over. And it's like, hey, man, you're not going to have your pension funds, your job, nothing under evil like this, you idiots. Okay? Democrats are like, yeah, I guess Obama's kind of out of control, but I still like him. Yeah, he'll be on Jay Leno talking about, well, hey, you got caught spying on people without warrants. You lied about that. But I'm for gay marriage. And like, well, I guess it's okay. It's like a throwaway thing. I'm for gay marriage. Just, hey, I caught you robbing the bank. I'm for gay marriage, officers. Well, I guess that's okay then. It's just all these little petty distractions. Going to break. Here's some of Carney an hour ago with his bull at the White House press briefing. Now, you don't need to go in a horse barn to find manure, folks. It comes out of this guy's mouth. Here it is.
What I would say is that yesterday I made clear that the intelligence community is working on an assessment, and that once we had that assessment, we would provide
working on more bull
information to the public about it in the coming days, and that remains true. I think that speculation that it would come
just
today.
Just look at him, his body language, total liar.
Some other day, but it will come, and I think you can expect it this week. Let me also say, and I think that both Secretary Kerry and I attempted to make clear yesterday that there is no doubt here that chemical weapons were used on a massive scale.
See, we're going to come back.
August 21st.
But he repeats what Kerry said. It doesn't matter if Assad used it now. They can use chemical weapons anywhere they want, then invade you.
There is a signal broadcast every second of every day through our television sets. Even when the set is turned off, look around the environment we live in. Carbon dioxide, fluorocarbons, and methane have increased since 1958. Earth is being acclimatized. They are turning our atmosphere into their atmosphere. We are like a natural resource to them. Deplete the planet, move on to another. They want benign indifference. They want us drugged. We could be pets. We could be food. but all we really are is livestock. Our impulses are being redirected. We are living in an artificially induced state of consciousness that resembles sleep.
We now take you live to the Central Texas Command Center and the heart of the resistance.
All right, we've just got him for about 10 minutes, because then I think he's doing an RT interview overseas. And then we're going to go to the veterans I wanted to get on. Ex-military intelligence, vet, nuclear launch officer, current serving military. I want to get your take on what's happening. But you heard Dr. Jerome Corsi last hour. He said this is the greatest threat of nuclear war since the Cuban Missile Crisis. And it's all based on a lie. And WorldNet Daily, with their Arab-speaking bureau, found all the al-Qaeda videos with them launching the attacks last week, bragging. And it's on their channels they've had for 2 years, showing their attacks. They're that proud. They got caught earlier this year launching a chemical attack that even Yahoo reported on. But I wanted to get Dr. Roberts on today. He wrote a story that's at paulcraigroberts.org. And we also have it up on Infowars.com. Syria, another Western war crime in the making, Paul Craig Roberts. And I wanted to get the former head of policy at the Treasury, father of Reaganomics, on to give a truly conservative perspective on this, and to ask him, is it good news that only 9% of Americans in a Reuters poll agree with this? I think this is the collapse of support, and it really shows we have a rogue state kleptocracy in there, A, but B, does he think they'll go ahead and strike? Dr. Corsi believes they will, and it may cause World War III. Dr. Roberts, thanks for coming on.
Pleased to be with you, Alex.
Break it down.
Well, they're going to strike, and of course it was not done by Assad. It was staged by the Americans and the Israelis. We've known this from the beginning. The minute that Obama said there was a line drawn, we knew they were going to have a false flag event. The fact that the American people are finally caught on, are tired of these wars that don't serve their purposes, doesn't matter, because Washington now is no longer accountable, except to a few powerful private interests. So I think it will go ahead. I don't think nuclear war will result because of this strike, but it's going to result because what the United States is doing, they're radicalizing the Muslims. It's a way of destabilizing both Russia and China. Russia has large Muslim populations. It's bordered by numerous Muslim countries. China has some Muslim populations and borders. And so as this radicalization of Muslims spreads, it spreads into these two countries and becomes destabilizing for them. And as well, the United States has inside Russia hundreds of non-governmental organizations funded with American money whose purpose is to destabilize Russia, to demand liberalization, which is really a way of creating dissenting voices, arousing the different nationality passions of the peoples in Russia. The same in China. In China, every time an American company locates a new plant or a bank branch in China, they create a board, and they put on this board the Chinese relatives of the local and regional party officials. And so that board becomes a way of, it's a conduit for money into the regional and local Communist Party, and it creates loyalties that put them at odds with the central government.
So it's a global corporatist takeover above all the nations. Let me ask you this question, Dr. Roberts. How far can the madness go when every military officer I talk to says the military's awake and upset? When the polls show almost no one's buying it, but as you said, they don't care, they go forward. Is there any way to stop this madness?
I doubt it. I think it will lead to nuclear war, because what the Chinese and Russians are learning is that there's no international law. I mean, the United States has no respect for international law, and the Chinese and Russians are learning that there is no restraint whatsoever on Washington's criminality. And since they are isolated diplomatically, they're outgunned militarily, all they really can do is to take refuge in nuclear weapons, and both are rapidly upgrading their strategic nuclear weapons. So I think the idiots in Washington, trying to have world hegemony, are driving the world to nuclear war. I think that is the certain outcome of the neoconservative policy of American hegemony.
Again, Dr. Paul Craig Roberts joins us. He's an economist and also has worked internationally on many deals, including the peace deals with the Soviet Union back in 1991. Doctor, unfortunately, I have to agree with you, and all the other experts I talked to agree, and I've done my own research. I think the only thing that may stop it is the military itself quietly leaking information, sabotaging things in a peaceful way, kind of blocking what's going on. And that's why you see such a focus on persecuting whistleblowers, because the kleptocrats that have seized control of our central government seem to be concerned about that. So I think that shows that may be a weakness.
Well, Dempsey, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs, has warned against it. But I think on the whole, the military is unable to do anything. And what they would have to do would be simply to have a coup. But actually, the war serves the purpose of the military. It serves the military security complex. The get along generals, when they retire, they either get to be Pentagon consultants or they become lobbyists.
Sure, but it's not going to serve them if we go totally bankrupt and there's a nuclear war.
I know, but everybody thinks about their interests. Who's looking after me? This is my chance. I can't rock the boat. So it becomes very hard for the military to do something that's actually against the short-run interests of all of the members in the higher ranks. So I don't know that we can count on the military stopping it. They haven't stopped any of the other wars.
Why do you think they're going ahead with this now? To distract from all the scandals, to try to get Iran to get involved so that they can have a wider war?
Well, it's part of the neoconservative document that they put out, and General Wesley Clark has reported he was shown the same thing when he visited the Pentagon. So I think what it's really about is the United States was going to pull off in Syria exactly the same scenario it used in Libya. Only this time the Russians and the Chinese vetoed the no-fly zone, because they had learned that the no-fly zone was actually something the Americans and NATO used for attacking Gaddafi's forces. So they vetoed it. So the Americans Washington had already instigated the outside jihadists going into Syria to overthrow the secular president, and yet there was no air support. And so the American-backed forces, the Washington-backed forces, are being defeated. And so they've got to find some way to come to the aid of the forces. And so that's what this chemical weapons false flag attack is all about. It gives Washington an excuse to run in there and rescue the forces that it sent to work.
Sir, Joel Skousen, who does World Affairs Brief, has been very accurate in his analysis, as have you been. He believes that the Anglo-American power structure is trying to get Russia and China to start a nuclear war, and that they believe out of that global crisis, they'll be able to create a new police state here, roll out some of the space-based weapons they've got to defeat them, and finally have world domination, and that this is truly a megalomaniacal thing that's happening. What's your take on that analysis?
Well, we already have a police state. They already have that, and nobody survives nuclear war. I mean, there won't be any survivors. So I think that's an incorrect analysis, and that
Okay, well, you and I can see the end of this, and he can see the end of it, and then everybody else I talk to that's intelligent can see the end of it. What is the power structure thinking, then, if they don't want World War III? Why are they trying to start it? Or are they so arrogant, like Don Corzine making 40-to-1 bets in the stock market, that they just think they're invincible?
Well, they probably are full of hubris, and they're full of the ideology that they're indispensable and exceptional, but they're also counting on winning. They're counting on their strategy of destabilizing Russia and China working. I mean, Washington does have fifth columns in both countries. And so if radicalizing the Muslim populations causes more instability, then Washington says we can win. So they're banking on winning without the nuclear war. But what they're overlooking is that that's the only weapons that China and Russia would have to stop this. So I think it would come out. We'll all be simply destroyed. It'll be the end of life on Earth.
And they also like to use the radical Muslims they're flooding the U.S. and Europe with as another way to destabilize and then take all our liberties from the threat they literally created. Dr. Paul Craig Roberts, folks can read your columns on your site and syndicated around the web on places like Infowars.com, paulcraigroberts.org. Thank you so much for your analysis.
Pleased to talk to you.
Thank you, Doctor. Well, there you go. There's the father of Reaganomics, listed as one of the top 10 economists in the world by Forbes magazine and other publications. Here telling us that we're probably going to end up in the next few years, if not sooner, have nuclear war and we're all dead. And Don Corzine and Blank Fine, everybody just doesn't care because they've just got trillions they've stolen and they're all just got jet copters and 20 mistresses and they're invincible like every other group of control freaks in history. They got to have world government, man. They just got to have it. They got to have it. They got to have it now. We're going to go to your phone calls here now in just a moment. Ahead of all this, it's more important than ever that everyone become PrisonPlanet.tv subscribers. $5.95 a month membership that pays for us to build the news division. Lets 11 people with the same username and passcode simultaneously log in, see all my films, the nightly news, the commercial-free video and audio podcast, the daytime radio show, the video feeds of the daytime radio show. It's all at PrisonPlanet.tv. And please don't forget, during all these crises, it is more important than ever to fund and support this operation. During crises, our actual revenue even goes down. You think it would go up, but people just get completely concerned about the information, not supporting the outfits that are actually helping warn people. I think this can be stopped. There are a lot of smart people in the system that realize where this is going, and that's why they haven't gone over the edge, because every Joint Chief of Staff has said, don't do this, and don't attack Iran, and don't, because they war fight, folks, and they know what the Russians are up to. And the globalists have this double game trying to take over China. It's just madness. It's not America. So please support InfoWarsStore.com, all the great products. Become a PrisonPlanet.tv member. If you have a membership, share it. Also, check out PrivateInternetAccess.com. We hear news stories every day about NSA spying on people. PrivateInternetAccess.com provides cybersecurity, encrypts internet connection, hides your IP address, providing anonymous browsing, provides firewall protection, which prevents data mining, provides uncensored access to the complete internet, maintains no records whatsoever of computer activity, can connect to 5 devices simultaneously with one account, and can have service anywhere the internet connection. Based in the USA, PrivateInternetAccess.com. And finally, eFoodsDirect.com. They sent out 50,000 meals to the victims in Oklahoma and found out that was only enough supply for just a few weeks. It just shows how people need to be prepared. They've got a bunch of specials running right now. You can find it at Infowars.com by linking through on the banners or by simply going to eFoodsDirect.com/Alex to find all the free shipping deals. They've got a bunch of other specials, eFoodsDirect.com/Alex or 800-409-5633. All right, my friends, let's go to your phone calls now. Doc, and then David, and then Scott, and then Passman. In fact, I want to go to Doc and then Passman first. Doc, you're on the air. You say you're ex-military intelligence. What is your take on all of this madness?
I don't want to get into it too much. I'm ex-MI and also ex-Spec Ops. I've served with the U.S. as military and as a civilian. And I also served in a foreign army in a third world war, in a third world brush fire war in Africa in the 70s. I was also in the peacekeeping force in the Sinai in the 70s under Carter. This is a message that I got about a week ago from a friend who's with Military Sealift Command on a row boat. That stands for roll on, roll off. He gave me an email and a message from his sat phone. He said that we are loaded, ready to roll, and we're headed for the Med. That was over a week ago. Second point, there's a book that all of your listeners should read. It's by the British author Ian Johnson. It is called A Mosque in Munich, and it details through declassified documents how after World War II, the CIA got SS war criminals and the Gestapo, allied them with the Muslim Brotherhood, sent these guys to the Middle East, and gave a crap load of money to the Muslim Brotherhood, and then got these war criminals to South America away from prosecution.
And that's now been declassified. Over 30,000 of them in Operation Paperclip and the Rat Line. Let me ask you this, sir, so I can just hear the nomenclature you're using. You know what you're talking about. That's what I was told by military a week and a half ago, that it was going to be on soon. You're saying you got this message before the chemical attack or after?
Before. About a week ago.
Looking at this, sorry, go ahead.
This guy works for the Military Sealift Command. He's a senior mate. He's right below an officer. He's been there for over 30 years. He's been with them since about the 70s, all right? A Military Sealift Command is a civilian part of the Navy that carries cargo all over the world. He's on a really big ship called a Ro-Ro. That stands for roll-on, roll-off. It's got big hatches on the ship. It can carry tanks. It's like a rolling, Alex, cargo truck. With
It's an amphibious. It's an amphibious landing delivery platform, correct? Similar to something like the Coronado.
It can handle huge trucks. It can handle Humvees. It can handle M1 Abrams tanks. He said to me in a very brief message and an email message, he said, "We're about ready to go into the Med." He said, "We're loaded up and we're ready to go."
And to be specific, then that would mean that they have contingencies for land forces, which we know they're already deploying into the Golan areas, and they're also deploying into Jordan and into the Gaza area. That was a month ago or 2 months ago now. Let me ask you this. What do you think of this overall operation, and what do you think of the chemical attack?
I think that it is, if you study political science and a guy named Dr. Hans Morgenthau, there's no such thing as foreign policy. All foreign aggression is done to cover internal problems in a country. Hitler's problem of Lebensraum, because between the wars, they had a high birth rate. He had to move east because the Germans were overpopulated.
Exactly, in living space. Well said. That man knows what he's talking about. We'll be back.
Cyrus Jones from 1810 to 1913.
You know, Hollywood is a psych warfare system meant to dehumanize and destroy us and make us where we can be pushed around. By the way, the mayor of L.A. has declared an emergency and says L.A. is collapsing, that everyone's exiting that has any money, and so is the film production. Yeah, it's over. All you people that think the New World Order is going to deliver you power, it was liberty that delivered you success, and now you've basically, whatted all over it, and so now you have nothing. That's my one piece of solace for all you evil people that think just because you know how things run and you can manipulate other folks that you're in control. You're out of control. The only time you're in control is doing the right thing. Let's go to Passman, then we'll go to David and Scott. We're going to get to everybody going to overdrive. Passman, you say you're a former nuclear launch officer. Do you agree with Dr. Roberts and Dr. Corsi both saying this is one of the most dangerous times in world history?
Well, I think it could be, Alex. I'm a former intercontinental ballistic missile launch officer from the 321st. Howdy to all my brothers there from the 321st. And I am completely and thoroughly familiar with all top-secret nuclear weapons launch plans. I can't talk about it, but I can give you my opinion.
Yes, sir. Give us your take on this, please.
My opinion is all it's going to take is one nuclear weapon to be released, and everything's going to be released. Because everyone is afraid. China, Russia, they're all afraid we're going to hit them first. So everybody's going to go up because nobody wants to get caught with their birds on the ground. It's the end of the world.
And that's standard, exactly. So what do you think the bankers are doing? I mean, I've never called for a military coup, but at a certain point, I mean, this is getting out of control.
Yeah, I listened to your show, and I think you got a pretty good handle on the banker. I'm not really an economic expert. They must have some pretty good bunkers they're going to go down into and wait this thing out if it goes up.
Well, that's the thing. I'm not a nuclear expert like you, but I've studied the textbooks on it. If the northern hemisphere will be unlivable for 50 years or so. I mean, you'll have massive cancer rates, 10, 20,000 times what they already are. Southern hemisphere won't be as bad, but I mean, it'll create a nuclear winter probably. The temperatures will drop. We might have winters, where it's like Minnesota and Texas. For everybody living in the West, it's the end of the world. I mean, is that what you've got, sir?
Well, I think it's not just the West. I think all over the world is going to be pretty bad.
No, I know, but I'm worried about me. I mean, I'll be honest, at that point, yeah, sure, China, Russia, it's going to be molten as well.
Yeah, I would say, look at your map. If you live near a military base, you're probably a target.
Yeah, so I'm in Austin, surrounded by military bases. I'm dead.
Yep, pretty much.
What, they'll send up one, it'll pop open with 20 warheads, maybe 10 of them are real, just aimed at Fort Hood. In fact, how many MIRVs do you think they'd fire just at Fort Hood? They probably might assign 5 ICBMs to Fort Hood, wouldn't they? So that'd be...
Sure, I can talk about Russian stuff, no problem.
Well, tell us, from what I've read, they would probably try to hit something like Fort Hood with just 5 ICBMs alone, and they might have as many as 100 warheads in there. That would not feel very good, would it?
No, you'd probably be a crispy critter.
I wonder if there's anywhere safe. Go ahead, sorry.
If you can get underground, the global bankers, my guess is they got nice, deep underground condos somewhere, and they're going to, when it happens, they're going to just kick back and, laugh at the rest of us, I guess.
And they've been setting Homeland Security up for re-emerging to restore order after they've done it. This could be the coup against America by the New World Order, is get us into a war with Russia and China, and that's actually what Skousen says, but he thinks it's coming down the road. It could be coming now. Sir, I'm going to come back to you. We're going to do 30 minutes of overdrive. We're going to go to David, Frankie, Scott, David. We're going to all of you. Stay there, Past Man. We're going to come right back with David in Maryland after Past Man, then David in Indiana, Scott, Frankie. Stay with us.
Today.
Big Brother, mainstream media, government cover-ups. You want answers? Well, so does he. He's Alex Jones on the GCN Radio Network. And now, live from Austin, Texas, Alex Jones.
All right, we're going to finish up with Past Man, nuclear launch officer, retired. And then we're going to go to David, and then Scott, and then Frankie and David. By the way, you cannot overemphasize how serious this is. This is not hype here. I mean, I can have the former head of the Treasury on. I can have a former, specialist in all sorts of secret operations, Dr. Corsi on. It's all the same analysis. And it's what the Russians are saying. You people are insane. You're like a monkey with a hand grenade. Leave us alone. And again, I've been no fan of the Russians, but our own globalist put the Bolsheviks in. That's now been declassified. It's public. It's these bankers, folks. They have just been screwing everybody over, playing us off against each other. And I talked to a major defense contractor, a billionaire, who left the U.S. 5 years ago to an island off Australia saying there won't be an America in 5 years. That was 5 years ago. I don't know if this could have been planned that far back, but she wouldn't say what it was. Past Man, other points about this madness, any of your colleagues you've talked to, where you think this is going?
Well, the only thing I can say is it's my opinion that if one nuclear weapon goes off, they all go off. That's as much as I'm comfortable saying. It's my opinion.
Well, that is the default. They call it, total commitment. I mean, a lot of this has come out in congressional hearings, that all the subs come up and launch their cruise missiles and their ICBMs, I guess their medium range. And then I guess they've got all those intercontinental ballistic missiles, still got some of those. And then they've got all the bombers. And then I guess it's just total commitment. And then I guess they use special forces deployed along the Russian border to use those to destroy sub bases. Man, we're talking about a lot of radiation here. Any idea how many nukes will go off? Isn't it something like 40,000 if they have a big nuclear war?
Yeah, I think it's less than that now, at least what I read. I don't know how much of the numbers are classified, so I don't think I should say that. But
plus, all the stuff we're told is complete bull. You know, the Air Force has it leaked one time that they've developed stuff beyond nuclear weapons, so we'll be lucky if they don't blow the whole planet up.
That's true. We'll be lucky if they don't.
Do you agree with the folks we had on earlier saying this is probably the most dangerous time ever, even worse than the Cuban Missile Crisis?
It sounds like it to me. It really does.
What about Russia and China? They might blink. I mean, they've already kind of sold out to the globalists. I mean, they could just submit and say, okay, you rule. I mean, maybe the globalists think that's what they're going to do.
Yeah, it doesn't work that way. You know, I think, well, man, I can't say that. I think Russia and China target everybody.
Yeah, including each other. That's on record. Yeah.
And nobody can sit on the sidelines in this. So, you know, take that for what it is.
Well, no, I mean, it was declassified that Russia approached in, 1964? Came out last year, approached the U.S. and asked for a joint strike on China. So that shows how crazy the Russians are. They already wanted to have a nuclear war with China. Is that what you were getting at?
Yeah, that, and just that everybody targets everybody. So there's not, when this thing happens, it's not going to be, you know, a slow dance, 1, 2, 3. It's just going to be shoot the works.
Exactly. Everything's pre-targeted, drilled, and it's just Pavlovian. Turn the keys, enter the launch sequence when you've got the code, and fire the weapons.
Yeah, what we say in the missile business is read a step, do a step, eat a banana, turn the key.
Monkey with a hand grenade. Oh, man, I hope when this is all over, people go dig the globalists out of their rat holes, man. That's somebody record this and save it. Just make sure they all get hung high. God bless you, sir. We'll be right back and take more calls. Stay with us, David and Frankie and Scott and David. We're coming right back to you on the other side. David, then Scott first.
Big Brother, mainstream media, government cover-ups. You want answers? Well, so does he. He's Alex Jones on the GCN Radio Network. And now, live from Austin, Texas, Alex Jones.
All right, we're live, ladies and gentlemen, into Overdrive, going to military veterans calls about the concern of nuclear war starting with Russia and China backed up as proxies. And we've had a bunch of top experts on, Dr. Corsi, Dr. Roberts. They have been saying that's probably what this could lead to. And then once Iran starts attacking people, I mean, this is a big political diversion. It's a perfect reason for Homeland Security to take over society. And the globalists hate Americans more than anybody. And during a major war, even if it's just a theater war, regional war with Iran attacking Israel back and forth, chemical weapons being used, Scud missiles, Iran's announced that. They're going to be able to clamp down, stage some events. Iran might even pull the trigger on sleeper cells. There'll be real events. And then that's an excuse to just go about their business, robbing the pension funds. Everything else will just salute the flag. We're talking to David in Maryland, former Army. What's your take on this, sir?
Yeah, Alex. The one thing that a lot of people don't realize is how close we are. If you do look at the DEFCON level, they got it listed at 5 now. And that should wake people up.
Well, go through, guys, pull up the DEFCON thing from NORAD and Cheyenne Mountain. And we can pull up a graphic and show people the different DEFCONs. Explain to people what the DEFCON system is.
That's where it tells you where your alert level is, how high the alert is. And we're sitting pretty darn high.
What is your take on the fact that there's evidence, overwhelming evidence, that the Syrian rebels launched the chemical attack, and there's even videos of it, and even Kerry and Carney are saying, "Oh, this is no big deal. Who did it? We've just got to go in now." When it's their rebels they put in that did it, it's amazing.
Absolutely, and most people are aware of it. There are a lot of people that know. There are a lot of people that talk about it. But what do you do? I mean, I talk to out the wazoo to people, and it just, sometimes it seems like it's just bouncing off people's heads. And then you look around, you watch what happened with Miley Cyrus and that, you wonder how come our society's gotten so decadent.
Well, a lot of the times there's not even a DEF CON going on, but the fact that it's in 5, from people I've talked to, they say it's more like in DEF CON 3 or 2, and once this bombing starts, it's going to go to DEF CON 2, and I guess DEF CON 1's go ahead and launch all the missiles, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Exactly. So that's all I had to say on the subject.
Well, God bless you, sir. I guess we got to let the bankers play God, though. Let them blow everything up. They're the government. They've got fancy suits and ties. It must be okay. It's okay for them to fund Al-Qaeda. Okay for them to start a nuclear war. Scott in Tennessee, then Frankie and David. Scott, you're on the air. Go ahead.
Hey, what's up, man? I'm just going to go ahead and tell you I'm not as, special and everything as these other guests you've had.
I know. Did you hear those? Did you hear those 2 other guys? I know that stuff. They were the real deal. Did you hear those guys?
I heard them, and I was just meat for the grinder. I was a rifleman in Iraq and Afghanistan.
Hey, buddy, that's important. That's important right there.
Well, I learned a lot about life, but I'm going to stay on topic here. A lot of people are talking about the nuclear end of it, and that's very possible, and let's just go ahead and assume that Syria will be attacked by the United States, UK, whatever. But as much as it breaks my heart, I have to disagree with Dr. Roberts when he said that other than nuclear options, Russia and China have no response, and I just want to go ahead and remind everybody that how powerful they are economically. I mean, they own together trillions of dollars worth of treasuries that they could dump overnight. They wouldn't even have to fire a single shot. And no,
I agree with you. And I think Roberts is wrong. I think they're very close to, I don't think he's fully wrong. I think he's intelligent. I respect his view. But, of course, he thinks they're going to do it, too. The question is, is there any way for sanity to prevail? Can they have the Joint Chiefs come back out and say it's a bad idea, as they've already done? I mean, we're seeing a lot of good signs. This would have already happened with these crazies. Look, Cheney had them attack Russia-held areas. When the Russians rolled in medium-range mobile missile trucks, they pulled out. Because they had NATO troops landing to back them up. The Russians came and rolled in, so let's get it on right now, and rolled their nukes in. So that's the thing. I just don't get it. It's like these psychos have to play this game because it's the only thing that excites them. I think that's what's part of this. And also what the gentleman said earlier about how war is the health of the state. They need this as a diversion. Maybe they're just doing this and escalating as a diversion from the scandals. Maybe they won't do it. What else do you think we could do to stop this?
Well, I don't think there's much stopping it. I mean, it's a long, convoluted plan that's been going back since 1913 for domination. And as long as the petrodollar remains in effect, there's not much that can be done to stop anything that these guys want to do.
So we're just going to let Goldman Sachs and J.P. Morgan and the Dutch and British royalty and the Rothschilds and the Rockefellers just run around and murder everybody and take our rights and bankrupt everything and deindustrialize us. I mean, at a certain point, people know who's doing this.
And they do, but it's a cycle. It's just, it's just like a solar system. A sun forms itself, it gets great and powerful and big and bright, and then it caves in on itself.
And then it blows up.
And then it blows up and maybe takes everything around it with it, So, unfortunately, there's a natural cycle to things. Even psychopaths and bankers, there's natural cycles.
No, they destroy themselves, everybody with them. And I think that's what Roberts was saying then. He just says we're doomed.
Exactly. And, being prepared is probably the best thing you can do to help yourself and your friends and your family. And, there's not much. I mean, we're just the peons, What can we do?
Well, I'll say this. They morally destroyed us. That's why it's so devilish. It's beyond humans. They turned us all into a bunch of idiots. Not everybody. 9% approval rating for this war. I think there's hope. I just think people better get how much danger we're in and better make some phone calls and pray and politically do whatever you got to. Pull your money out of the big banks. Let them know why you're doing it and realize these corporations that are running things are our enemy. I mean, they are our enemy. Let's go ahead. I mean, these bankers put the commies in, man. We owe Russia an apology. Let's go ahead and talk to Frankie and then David. Frankie from New Jersey, give us your take on this. You say your government agency intelligence. Go ahead. Frankie, go ahead, buddy. All right, let's go back to David and see if Frankie comes back. David, in Indiana, you're on the air. You say you're a vet. What's your take on this?
Well, Alex, Russia, China, United States, European Union, Japan, they all got eyes in the sky over there. If there is a missile launch with gas, they could take it right back to wherever it came from, and then they could follow those trucks back to the dump they got it from. If they want war, it's because they want war. They're not trying to diffuse this thing at all. They could make United States look like a first-class lying idiot if they wanted to.
Absolutely. And look, we have the videos. The Muslim extremists always videotape themselves loading the mortars and engaging. They've been caught 3 separate times. They've been caught. I mean, they've been caught. It's not like it's Russian media or whatever. It's WorldNet Daily, others. I mean, it's their training videos on their established sites. They're very, very proud of themselves, and it shows the total disdain that the establishment has for everybody. They're preparing this new fake dossier or whatever, but of course, they've got zoom in of everything that happened they can show us. Of course, they can also show us Forrest Gump shaking hands with LBJ, so they can also put out fake stuff. But regardless, why would Assad do something like this?
Well, it's a globalist, show. He's a little bit backward, I think. So, he's just probably the number one manipulated person in this whole game.
Talking about Assad?
Yeah.
Well, there's the Al-Qaeda rebels loading the chemical warhead. And they announced they did. They're very proud of it. And
AWACS, they got the doggone Patriot battery sprinkled around. There's no way in the world that they don't know where these things come. They could take the vibration and tell you if it's a 16-wheeler or a 32-wheeler going down the highway. It's all energy transfer. It's frequency. These people got the capability. If they want war, they're going to have it. They're going to bring it about, and all together. There's nobody being duped here. Russians aren't duped. The Chinese aren't duped. We're not duped. You want to depopulate. You depopulate.
That's right. All right. Well, folks, I appreciate your call. Drink your fluoride, eat your GMOs, give your kids all the shots, and they'll probably die when they're 15, 20 years old. You'll get to take them and put them in the ground after the doctors torture them for about 2 years and suck everything out of them. And I guess that's it. We just submit to evil, and that's the end of it. Everybody wants to be evil. Everybody thinks evil's cool. And that's just the way it is. And Kerry can go, doesn't matter who did the chemical weapons, we're going to attack. And it's his people doing it. Like the guy who gave the order on record, he runs the State Department, and the rebels work for him. And then he's up there. I mean, it's just so sick. I'm going to end the transmission now and go back into rebroadcast. Dr. Corsi's coming up and a lot more. Kiss your children, little extra. And just all this is brought to you by the New World Order. Thank them. And all of you that are into submitting to tyranny, your God is Goldman Sachs, J.P. Morgan. So I suggest you worship it tonight and thank them for all the jobs you're losing, the dollars being devalued, the open borders, the increases of cancer and all the diseases. Just thank your lucky stars for all these degenerate bankers and New World Order people. And this show wasn't important today. Go watch Molly Cyrus being humped on TV, and just that's the end of it. But seriously, as for me, I'm going to warn people. I'm going to expose this. I'm going to pray to God for intervention. We're going to change this. Great job to the crew, everybody else. Powerful 3 hours and 20 minutes. Lord willing, we'll be back tomorrow, 11 a.m. Central. Infowars Nightly News, 7 o'clock tonight. If you're not a PrisonPlanet.tv member, become one today. We need your support in these dark times. And please share your membership with people. 11 people can use it simultaneously. PrisonPlanet.tv.